Some progress to report nonetheless. Entergy says that it's restored 51% of customers as of today. Now, there were 902,000 customers out at the peak. Today, there are 467,000 customers who have been restored. The crews were all over Kenner today. That's just one area they're working. And more, they're making their way toward harder hit areas like St. Charles, St. John, Terrebonne, and Lafourche. The goal is to get power back there in those hard hit areas by September 29th. But Entergy officials warn that as they start to work, those crews could find some delays.
We continue to check and adjust, but no, we are challenging ourselves to do what we can to get these communities back to normal as safely and as quickly as possible. That is the goal. That's the mission.
And so again, you hear there that they're saying they want those hard-hit areas on as soon as possible, but unfortunately tonight it sounds like that is just about a month away. Now coming up at 5 o'clock, we'll take a look at Jefferson Parish and Orleans Parish as well. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thanks very much, Danny. And we also have an update on power restoration efforts for CLECO customers. More than 85,000 people now have electricity in St. Tammany and Washington parishes. Crews are still out there working to restore the power to those without.
And checking in on the outages in this Washington St. Tammany Electric Co-op, this is good news. There are only over 7,000 people without power in St. Tammany, about 2,300 in Tangipahoa, and just over 800 in Washington Parish. 2 boil water advisories have been lifted for parts of the area. In Jefferson Parish, the West Bank, excluding Grand Isle, has been cleared to use the water without boiling. And over in Plaquemines Parish, those on the West Bank as well, from the parish line to the Phillips 66 Alliance refinery, are in the clear.
All right, in Tangipahoa, many there are already working to rebuild. Maria Aguilera has been in Hammond all day today.
Yeah, people are picking up emergency supplies there, and they're surveying the damage to their homes. Maria.
Recovery efforts are just now beginning here in Hammond. As you can see, some of the devastation here behind me, this tree completely uprooted, and you can see that there are some homes that have been damaged. It completely went on the roof, and you see there is a truck behind me that this tree here just split in half. This is a homeowner who says that she's already lost 2 of her vehicles. Thankfully, her home was untouched. And just across the street, you see another house where the owners were not there when the hurricane hit. They were at a motel, and they came back to some of this devastation and were just saddened to see some of the loss of their homes. And you can see here what I was talking about, this tree that was uprooted here. The owner of this home says it just feels like a jungle when they're walking out here. Just across the street, though, there are some homes that are untouched. But we're just going to walk over this way and speak with this homeowner who is just devastated by the situation here in her home. Ms. Smith, so much for talking with us today. Talk to me about some of the devastation that hit your home.
We were in the house, and it sounded like a big freight train when it first hit, and we went to running, so it was just pounding. It was beating the house, and this is what we woke up to. Well, we didn't sleep that night, but when we came outside, this is what we came outside to, and it was the most scariest thing I ever lived through. And I'm 55.
You mentioned to me that you didn't even know where to run to. You were at one part of the home, and then you had to run to another part because of all the destruction. Talk to me about that.
We were in the hallway, so we heard the tree when it fell in the hallway. So we ran to the back room. Then we went and hid up in closets and things. And it seemed like every room we run to, it was just hitting that part of the house. It was scary.
And many of you here in Hammond, no power yet, no electricity. You have heard some word of when you might get that power back. Talk to me about that.
Yes, ma'am. They say on the 17th, but we're going to be patient with them because we know everybody's doing their best, ma'am. So we'll be patient with them.
Yeah, and you are just remaining so hopeful. What is your message to the community right now? There's a lot of devastation. A lot of people have lost homes, vehicles, people have been hurt. What is your message to the community, and how do you remain so hopeful during a time like this?
Because I know God is bigger than our problems. He'll fix it.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Again, we are here. You could just see her home was, not touched here, and so she is just saying that she is thankful to be alive. Again, here is some of the damage that we have seen. It's some of the worst areas here in Hammond, and coming up later later tonight, we're going to be hearing from some more homeowners who say they were just so scared and they're just waiting for power to be restored in this community. For now, back to you.
All right, thank you very much for that report. Now, since Hurricane Ida hit, 12 senior citizens in nursing homes and senior living facilities have died.
5 of those victims were found over the weekend when the health department started doing wellness checks in New Orleans. And Asha Staples has been following this story for us.
St. John Birchman's Manor is one of 10 facilities the city of New Orleans ordered to close this past weekend. And as of yesterday, there's still about 90 residents that are living in their apartments. Now, health officials were making wellness checks, but found some senior apartments without air conditioning or adequate medical attention for residents. And this all unfolding days after more than 800 nursing home residents who evacuated to a warehouse in Independence had to relocate. The warehouse was described as overcrowded, hot, and unsanitary. 7 residents died in connection to that incident. As for those in this facility, residents tell me it's their home and they don't want to leave in fear of further mistreatment and pleading for help.
I'm an oxygen patient, for one. It makes me feel like it's no one but us. They just start sending water and Gatorade, but we had none of that. Since the summer.
And this is a list of those nursing homes and senior living facilities that we do know were ordered to close down. The Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services is launching Connect, a way for families to relocate loved ones who evacuated from Hurricane Ida to a state shelter. Alternatively, families can fill out a form online to reach out to loved ones who may be in state shelters. Of course, we do have all that information for you on our website, wwltv.com. And of course, we'll continue to follow these stories for the next few days and bring you the latest as we do get it. Reporting in New Orleans, Asha Staples, Eyewitness News.
All right, we also have a better idea of what conditions were like inside that warehouse in Independence. 800 residents were evacuated to that facility before the storm.
The Louisiana Department of Health says the warehouse had been evaluated before Ida hit, and officials determined the facility did have, quote, the minimum necessary components to provide a safe sheltering environment for a very short period of time, adding conditions clearly deteriorated following the storm.
The LDH also revealed residents were found in varying stages of undress and did not have adequate medical care. There were piles of linens and trash on the floor and an overwhelming stench of urine and feces in the building. Hospitals that received the patients told the state it was clear they had been neglected. Stay tuned to this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We'll have more on the recovery efforts after Hurricane Ida up next. More and more people are starting to come back to Lafourche Parish, but officials are warning anyone returning needs to bring everything they need to survive.
Of course, the power out, gas hard to come by, and there is a boil water advisory for the entire parish except for Thibodaux. We talked to the Lafourche Sheriff's Office earlier, and they told us just how bad the damage is parish-wide.
We have entire streets where homes are just completely leveled. There's areas where there's no evidence that homes ever existed in that area. It's just completely devastating. Some buildings were completely gutted in the central portion of our parish. Really, I think it's safe to say that 100% of homes in Lafourche Parish sustained some level of damage. Some was very minor, going all the way to, again, just complete devastation of a residence.
And we also heard from Jefferson Parish leaders this weekend, too.
Yeah, today officials are in Grand Isle. They're getting ready for crews to come in tomorrow and Wednesday, and that includes Entergy workers who are actually going to start fixing utility poles down there.
Fire Department Director Brian Adams says that recovery for Grand Isle begins in earnest this week.
This will be a long, drawn-out process. We will send daily reports back to the parish president of street by street and block by block as we make our way through the island, clearing the roads and beginning the process of getting families back into their places if they can.
Boy, that is good to hear about progress. Elsewhere in Lower Jefferson, Lafitte has a tough recovery ahead. But we are talking about recovery. Many roads still flooded, and there's mud everywhere, including inside homes.
And in Barataria, many people are cut off, and they're in need of supplies. A barge hit the swing bridge and knocked it off its axis, making it impassable. The National Guard is now ferrying equipment and supplies there.
All right, turning now to St. Charles Parish, where they continue to deal with power outages amid the damage.
Tan Trung has been there throughout the day and is bringing us more on their situation. Tan?
Katie, Karen, the power situation here in St. Charles Parish is complicated, and it's affecting many aspects of life, including a strong odor that many people are noticing here. Now, understand that the power of the storm knocked out many areas, stripped buildings here, as you can see, but it also battered the infrastructure for Entergy as well. Now, with that, you factor in the fact that many of the areas here, the lift stations, the sewage lift stations, don't have power. And then on top of that, you're layering that some sewage lines also broke. Add some heat, and now you understand why people are complaining about the strong smell that they're experiencing here. Now, with that, when you take all of that on top of the stress that people are feeling here with the storm damage, it's a lot to take on. Take a look at some of the video that we shot today. This is a drone's view of a neighborhood in Bayou Gauche near Life Fellowship Community Church. The hurricane caused substantial damage to its roof. The smaller homes and buildings around the church sustained losses as well. Many homes are now covered with tarps, but some families haven't gotten to that point, and today's rain didn't help matters. To meet people's basic needs, churches and volunteers are helping with food and supplies, but there are spiritual needs too. It's why the church in Bayou Gauche was determined to hold services on the first Sunday after the storm.
There's just such a discouragement and a brokenness that happened right after the storm, and our church has been such a staple in this community for 115 years. Our church started in the bayou, people went by boat, and it's slowly come up the road, Bayou Gauche Road. And so we wanted to show our people that even in the midst of a storm, we can still praise and we can still worship.
And you can certainly feel that type of spirit, that type of resilience down here in St. Charles Parish. Now, it's going to be a long road ahead for sure. They estimate, the parish estimates that it may be 5 weeks until power is fully restored here. Reporting in St. Charles Parish, Tan Trung, Eyewitness News.
Yeah, some of the rain that we did have today certainly didn't help things, but improving weather on the way. Most of our heavier storms from today gone. May still have a few more showers, thunderstorms popping up. We have one in southern Mississippi, just to the south of I-10. Not really moving much, but also not an intense storm. And also generally across the southern part of Lake Pontchartrain, some scattered showers popping up. And again, may still see a few more developing over the next couple of hours, but those intense storms that we had are gone, and it will be be a quieter evening. And during the day tomorrow, it should be a little bit quieter with scattered showers and thunderstorms, and we may see some isolated downpours, but it doesn't look like the coverage tomorrow is going to be quite as great as it was today. Fewer showers on Wednesday, and then even less. I'm dropping our rain chances to 0 by Thursday, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. Right now, mostly cloudy. Temperature 79 degrees at Kenner. Really, our temperatures dependent upon when those storms began, because temperatures plummeted once the rainfall began. Still 88 degrees, though, out in Slidell. 80 degrees at Gulfport. 79 right now at Kenner, thanks to that rainfall we just had. So more scattered storms tomorrow, fewer by Wednesday, and then a cold front on Thursday. And yes, a cold front. Temperatures will be coming down a bit, but it's going to turn less humid. And in early September, that's probably the most important thing. We are watching Invest 91 in the Gulf, but at the moment, and really doesn't look like it is going to do anything to us. Here's what's going on in the upper atmosphere right now. There is a push coming in from the north, kind of a broad upper trough that is sitting over us. This little base of the trough, as this kind of deepens slowly over our area, it is going to start picking up Invest 91 and pushing it farther to the east. So with this little upper low in place, this really cannot come our way. It is going to get pushed off to the east. Let's fast forward a bit. Deepening upper trough and an upper ridge out west means a strong push from the north, and that starts bringing in some less humid air, and the dew points, which have been in the mid and even at times some upper 70s, generally low to mid 70s, will begin to fall by Thursday morning. They're dropping into the low 60s by Thursday evening. Going into Friday, we'll start to see more widespread 50s. For early September, this is a good feel air mass, and that front is on the way. Next couple of days, still very humid. A little bit of instability in the atmosphere will allow for more of the rainfall over the next couple of days. But in terms of moisture from Invest 91, that no longer looks like it's going to impact us. And then with this front sweeping on through by early Thursday morning, improving weather is on the way. Here is the latest with Invest 91. And I posted something just a moment ago, a little tongue-in-cheek, saying, this is awkward. The Saints moved their home game to Jacksonville, and that may be where we could see some development of this system. Now, really by Sunday, whatever does end up happening from 91 will likely be by the end of the weekend already over the Atlantic waters, but just kind of interesting. Sometimes you can't run away from these tropical systems. For the models that do try and develop something, it generally moves it toward the Jacksonville area. Well, first the Big Bend area of Florida and then into the Atlantic. But notice how some of the models just kind of stop down to the south. That means they're not forecasting this to do anything. So the few that are really don't have it going anywhere, or I should say affecting us at all. And notice this is the GFS. You don't really see any kind of an organized system. It is basically just a mess of a wave that starts to try and get organized near the panhandle of Florida, but eventually whatever little rotation does try and form eventually just moves out into the open Atlantic. So we are not concerning ourselves with Invest 91. We're not done with hurricane season yet, but we got to take it day by day and week by week, which does include so much nice weather. Check out these morning lows. We're dropping into the 60s and low 70s north shore south of the lake, and a very pleasant several days, even as the humidity starts to come back by Sunday and Monday. Not a bad 7-day forecast.
Well, flooding in Lafitte and Barataria is causing an issue reminiscent of Katrina that we don't often see, never want to see, at cemeteries.
Yeah, President Cynthia Lee Sheng addressed her concerns and other people's concerns about it at her press conference on Sunday night.
The next item I have never talked about before. I am trying to be extremely sensitive to this very delicate issue. But when we had the rising waters in Barataria and Lafitte, there have been some caskets that were removed from their resting location. And people are starting to get concerned, obviously, about deceased family members. So I took a call from Mayor Kerner last night. I also spoke to Dr. Jerry Satanovich. This is actually handled by a special team at the State Department called a cemetery team. They have already done aerial surveys, and they will do and schedule to do a ground assessment shortly. Okay, so I trust that this team is going to handle it with the sensitivity that it deserves, and more information will be coming, but I want everybody to know that we are aware of it, we're on it, and we know it is a family member of yours that was once very loved, and we will handle it. I'm sure the team, we're not doing it, but I'm sure the team will handle it with very much respect.
And we are told that the cemetery team will identify any caskets moved by the floodwaters and return them to their rightful resting places as soon as possible.
This happened during the 2016 floods. I remember it's just an issue, unfortunately, that happens when there's significant flooding, and we do have a team on the way to that area. We're going to bring you much more on the issue tonight on the Eyewitness News at 10.
All right, well, as people begin to repair the damage left by Hurricane Ida, there are some questions about how to get help from your insurance company.
It's a complicated process for some, and Duke Carter breaks down what officials say you should do right now.
Well, State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon wants to make sure that people are not bogged down with the process. You can see behind me just how massive that tree is that hit the home. They want to make sure that it's easier for people to recover, especially the folks behind me, as soon as possible. And so State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon is asking insurers to be fair with the claims process. He and President Biden have noticed insurance companies are not paying claims because there was no mandatory evacuation. Donelon said in a news conference he is urging insurers to pay claims with a voluntary or no evacuation order. He said the issue of mandatory evacuation is not about insurance. Instead, it should be about people's safety. Donelon said that some companies have already started to waive the mandatory evacuation provision.
People had to get out of harm's way in a very short period of time. And this circumstance certainly dictated that kind of action by our local leaders. I concur, and on Friday I issued a bulletin urging the insurers to do as the President suggested and as I'm requesting, and not impose that requirement of a mandatory evacuation order. So far I've heard about 3 companies.
Now, the insurance commissioner is asking people to file their claim as soon as possible, because the sooner you file, the better you're going to get the adjuster on scene, and you'll get a reputable contractor and not fall victim to a scam. Now, if there are any questions about this, you're asked to call the state office at 1-800-259-5300. For now, the reporting, Duke Carter, Eyewitness News.
And use caution, those scammers are already out there. But for people still without power, one of the New Orleans Public Library branches actually opened today. It's going to provide access to computers, Wi-Fi, charging stations, and air conditioning, thank goodness. The Central City Library is open from 10 until 5, and it's located on Jackson Avenue in case you've never been there. The other library branches are still closed.
All right, stay tuned to this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We're going to have much more on the recovery efforts up next.
From WWL-TV, this is continuing coverage of the Hurricane Ida aftermath.
Well, we certainly know that tens of thousands of people are still without power and water more than a week after Ida made landfall.
And while others are finally seeing what remains of their homes, everyone is looking toward recovery. Good afternoon, and thank you for watching. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Karen Swenson, and this afternoon we continue our extended coverage of the aftermath of Hurricane Ida.
But first, we have an area that we're watching in the tropics right now. It is not expected to become anything major, at least that's what Chris Franklin says, but it could bring some rain to our area.
And that could complicate all the cleanup efforts, so let's get a quick check of your forecast with local weather expert Chris Franklin.
And this is one of those complicated situations where we're still very much in the very early formative stages, and even that formative stage with Invest 91 is a loose term because it is not getting organized. This is actually the same system we've been talking about going back to last Wednesday. And over the weekend, I know it started to give folks that pit in the feeling in their stomach as we were looking at maybe an organizing system south of our coast, possibly moving up toward Louisiana or just to our east. Well, the way things are looking right now, this is not fast to develop, still undergoing some strong wind shear. And if we were to see this try and get better organized, it looks like by that point, and by that point in time, it would be south of the Louisiana coast and moving to the east. And even as of right now, latest model runs take any associated moisture with it away from us as well. So today was probably going to be the wettest day we will see all week. Still some scattered showers tomorrow, fewer on Wednesday, and then by Thursday, improving conditions. For the few models that actually organize this or keep it as a more viable system, take it more toward the Big Bend area of Florida. Some of the other models just kind of have it dissipating down to our south, as again, right now, the Gulf of Mexico is not what it was a week and a half ago. It is a very hostile environment, and most of the models do not organize this system at all. So good news for us, and more good news for us is it looks like a cold front is going to be headed our way. We'll talk more about that in just a second.
All right, thank you very much, Chris. If it seems like every other light in the metro area is off right now, that's about right.
Yeah, Entergy says that it's restored 51% of customers, and there were 902,000 customers out at the peak of this whole incident. Today, 467,000 have been restored, and crews were all over Kenner today.
More and more are making their way toward the hardest hit areas like St. Charles and St. John, Terrebonne, and Lafourche parishes. The goal is to get power back there by September 29th, but Entergy officials warn that as they start the work, they could find delays.
We continue to check and adjust, but no, we are challenging ourselves to do what we can to get these communities back to normal as safely and as quickly as possible. That is the goal. That's the mission.
All right, we also have an update on power restoration for CLECO customers. More than 85,000 CLECO customers have electricity in St. Tammany and Washington parishes. Crews are still out there right now restoring power to those without it.
Again, in the Washington St. Tammany Electric Co-op on their customers, there are just over 7,000 people without power in St. Tammany Parish. Those are customers, of course. About 2,300 of them in Tangipahoa and just over 800 in Washington Parish.
And here are a few tips as we continue to live without power. Never use a generator inside a home, garage, or any other enclosed area. Keep them outside, at least 20 feet away from vents, windows, and doors. Turn off the generator for about 20 minutes and let it cool down before you refuel it, and install a carbon monoxide alarm.
2 boil water advisories have been lifted for parts of the area. In Jefferson Parish on the West Bank, excluding Grand Isle, it's been cleared to use the water without boiling. And in Plaquemines, those on the West Bank from the Parish line to the Phillips 66 Alliance Refinery are in the clear.
Now, an investigation is underway into those conditions at a warehouse where hundreds, over 800 nursing home residents rode out the storm.
It is horrific, and officials say conditions were unsafe and ordered 7 senior living facilities that sent patients there to close. Eyewitness News broke the story last week, and CBS's Jesse Mitchell is outside that warehouse with an update.
They were hungry, they were thirsty, they was crying for, out, they was in pain. It was just very sad.
Nurse Natalie Henderson rode out the hurricane inside a warehouse here in Independence, Louisiana, where hundreds of nursing home residents were packed in just before Ida hit. These images show patients on mattresses on the floor with no social distancing. Health officials were told the residents were not being fed or changed. 5 of the 7 deaths here were storm-related.
The whole place is reeking of urine and feces. On top of them trying to eat, they begging for water.
The owner of the 7 nursing homes behind the move tried to downplay the tragedy last week.
We only had 5 deaths within the 6 days, with normally with 850 people, you'll have a couple a day. So we did really good on taking care of people.
Why would you say that? There shouldn't be no deaths at all. At all. It's just heartbreaking.
Some residents in some of the hardest hit Louisiana towns have given up. Facing sweltering heat, gas, and food shortages, they're leaving the state until the power returns.
Any place the Lord blesses us to go out of this heat, where we're able to get some food, get a hot bath, and, and just some comfort.
Meanwhile, Henderson says after speaking out, she's been told she'll never be hired back if the nursing homes reopen. But she hopes doing so will ensure nothing like what she witnessed will ever happen again.
These are people's lives. They are not animals or dogs. They're human beings, and they deserve good treatment.
The Louisiana Department of Health reports trying to gain access to inspect this facility, but they were denied entry. CBS News has reached out to the nursing home owner, Bob Dean Jr., for a comment. He has not responded to our request. Jesse Mitchell, CBS News, Independence, Louisiana.
Well, the head of the New Orleans Health Department addressed the situation involving senior living centers in the city.
Dr. Jennifer Avegno says her team started reaching out to the senior living centers after the storm and quickly realized that some were failing to provide the necessary care for residents.
As the power outages dragged on and the concern for heat-related illness, particularly to the elderly, grew, we realized that we needed direct verification of what was being reported to us. And so our team at the health department with public safety partners decided to send out some strike teams to several of the buildings that we were most concerned about. Upon arrival to these buildings, we located, sometimes with great difficulty, someone who had master keys to all the rooms and went door to door with fire, police, and EMS so we could directly lay eyes on every individual present. In some of these facilities, we found fairly stark conditions: no power, no elevators, no lights, individuals in their rooms who couldn't access normal supports or services. Tragically, in some places, our staff discovered residents who had died and had not yet been discovered. Clearly, for several of these facilities, this indicated that there were emergent threats to life and safety for the people who were remaining there. So we quickly mobilized, getting those individuals to state shelters as soon as possible. In 3 days, today's the 4th day, our teams have visited nearly 30 facilities for comprehensive evaluations, and we've done quick assessments of several more. Close to 600 residents of these buildings were safely routed through the convention center and directly, in some cases, to state shelters where they are now secure and comfortable.
And we know that many people are still trying to locate their loved ones who were at one of those facilities.
It is difficult. If you need help finding a loved one, you're asked to call 211.
And we will continue to follow those investigations. Stay tuned to this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We'll have much more on the recovery efforts from Hurricane Ida up next.
A beloved New Orleans musician has died. Benny Pete, founding member of the Hot 8 brass band, passed away today. He was just 45 years old and recently tested positive for COVID. Tributes to Pete poured in on social media, with the Music and Culture Coalition offering condolences to his family and his bandmates. Actor and WBOK owner Wendell Pierce said Pete was, quote, central to the resurgence of New Orleans traditional brass music to a new generation. Pete's death is a reminder, of course, that even as we recover from the aftermath of Ida, we are still very much in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, this is such a tragic loss. He was such a huge part of the revival of music and culture after Katrina. And yesterday, the governor stressed the importance of keeping COVID in mind with all of this.
It's all very challenging to know that we're still in the fourth surge of COVID. Now, we're doing better than we were, but we still have more people in the hospital today than we had at any point during the first three surges. And you know, I like to make this point, not because it warms my heart, but because it's important to make. 13 deaths from the storm thus far. The last 7 days that we reported, and we didn't report yesterday or today, the last 7 days we reported our COVID deaths were 350. So it's incumbent upon all of us to do what we can to minimize transmission in cases, to minimize hospitalizations and deaths. And you know, our healthcare workers have just been slammed for a year and a half.
And again, Benny Pete dead at the age of 45. Our sympathy to his family. If you're watching from out of town and you're planning to return to Lafourche Parish, deputies warn you better be entirely self-sufficient.
Yeah, there is not a lot down there, and the power is still out, gas hard to come by, and the sheriff's office says every home has at least some kind of damage. Molly Oak reports.
In the small fishing town of Golden Meadow,
Mr. John was living there. That was Marie in that house.
Where neighbors feel more like family.
Whoever needs anything, they're right there to help you. They are right there to help you.
Now they're feeling
just helpless
after Hurricane Ida pummeled the area.
I'm just coming back from Alabama. Yes.
Tell me what you see.
Total devastation.
We met Marilyn Dewey just as she pulled into her driveway. It's her first time back since evacuating before the storm.
Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. It's this much damage. But I was born and raised here. I've never seen anything like this. Never.
A block over.
That was a trailer park all right there.
Tammy Bouzigard lives in the middle of that damage. Her home is one of the few left standing.
This was the height of my house.
Though not as high as it once was.
Everything's ruined in there. Everything.
For a neighborhood that's used to helping each other out, Tammy says now they need someone else to step in.
We need help. We need somebody to come. We need them to come over here. We need FEMA. We need Red Cross. We need the officials to come.
Because right now, there's not much that can be saved.
This is terrible. These poor people, I don't know what they're going to do when they're going to come back. I don't know what they're going to do.
Marilyn asked the same question. She could barely take her eyes off of what's left of the mobile homes.
I feel sorry for those people. It is hitting my heart. I got a home I can come to, but they don't. You know.
The one thing that pulled her attention?
There's my cat. My cat survived. Oh my goodness. Hey, buddy.
There's that same determination to rebuild here that you find throughout the area.
We're gonna do what we have to do.
But for this neighborhood, the road to get there will be much longer.
When she sees that cat, right? It was such an incredible story. We wanted to show it again, and it really speaks to the despair in that area.
Yeah, and aside from the tears, you know, when I see pictures of the rubble like that, of the things that are left behind, the things that didn't get touched, it just sort of hits your heart like that baby seat that you can see in the middle of all of that devastation. You just know that there's so much more of a story there, and it's just heartbreaking, and I hope that the help does come soon.
Right, and I keep thinking, I hope they know that their neighbors to the east, those of us who were hit by Katrina, you know, that we're doing well now, and that they will too. It's a long road, but they will be okay, and we will not forget about them.
Absolutely. And I'm hearing every day, even just looking on social media, more and more organizations and groups. And, you know, when I was down in Houma on Friday, I saw some trucks just from church groups that have come from up north down to help already. We know what a big role they played in the years after Katrina that it took to come back. So, I mean, the help is on the way. Just hang on.
Indeed. All right, stay tuned to the special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We'll have much more on those recovery efforts in a moment.
Well, it's Labor Day and a lot of people are relaxing today, but not here. It is elbow grease and man hours for residents in the storm-ravaged states from all across the Gulf Coast to the Northeast.
Yeah, this was one massive storm and had a huge impact. And today, President Biden approved major disaster declarations for counties in New Jersey and New York. CBS's Femi Redwood reports.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy hit the ground in Lambertville, touring damage to the riverfront town.
They're just able to be able to get back into their homes to start moving things out, so the clean out effort is ongoing.
More than 50% of the homes there sustained water damage. This one shifted right off its foundation.
We do have somebody with a sense of humor. If you look down there, you can see the witch's legs sticking out from underneath the rubble.
We found them down the stream and needed a little levity.
Residents like Nick Separullo are relieved to hear they'll be getting federal assistance thanks to a disaster declaration.
We'll be all right. We just we need a little help getting there.
Homeowners and renters who suffered damage like in this Queens, New York neighborhood could be eligible for up to $34,000 in FEMA grants for things like temporary housing and repairs. While help is on the way, Democratic politicians in both states are pushing legislation to tackle what they say is driving these storms: climate change.
The bipartisan infrastructure bill will help us rebuild. It'll have a lot of money. The reconciliation bill in the cure really starts finally getting a hold of climate change.
Everything's ruining there. Everything.
The needs are more immediate in parts of hard-hit Louisiana, still sweltering in the heat. Neighbors are helping deliver basic supplies.
I've been in a mud boat, taking it house to house.
Power is slowly being restored, but some may be without it until the end of the month. Femi Redwood, CBS News, East Elmhurst, New York.
And not to help the issues or to help the efforts today, we had some big downpours. Now, we will see some more scattered rain tomorrow as well as Wednesday, but a bit less in coverage. Had some pretty intense storms earlier in the day, and of course, that kind of shuts down any of the electrical work. Have a few more scattered showers, thunderstorms developing kind of along the line from South Mississippi down between Bay St. Louis and Pearlington. A little thunderstorm that's starting to pop up, or I should say develop and strengthen northward over I-10, and then kind of continuing along that line south of Slidell and over Lake Pontchartrain. They are staying north of the city at the moment, but still may see a few more showers and thunderstorms bubble up before they are all done with by later tonight. And it looks like we'll be fairly quiet overnight with maybe a few isolated showers and more scattered rain developing during the day tomorrow. Less of a chance on Wednesday and even less by Thursday. 83 degrees right now with a dew point of 76 under mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures really dependent upon when and where the rain began. Temperatures dropped into the 70s. We're starting to rebound back into the low 80s, but 88 right now in Slidell. And we did see many locations get into the upper 80s, low 90s before that rain began. And more storms over the next couple of days. Not everywhere, not all day long, but scattered. A little bit less by Wednesday and dry as a cold front moves through on Thursday. We are also watching Invest 91, but it does not look like it's going to affect us at all. Here's what's going on in the upper atmosphere. There is a bit of a push coming in from the north. What we're waiting on is a deepening upper trough, but with this little push in the upper atmosphere there's a little swirl right here over North Louisiana. That little swirl, as it kind of sinks slowly south, is going to pick up the invest and move it away from us. So it is not going to be coming here. And in fact, because of this motion in the upper atmosphere, it should also take any associated rainfall away with it. As we go toward late Wednesday, Thursday, deepening trough and a big ridge out west will send in a surge of drier air, and a cold front will move on through. Now, it is early September, so not a big drop in our temperatures, but you'll feel the difference, especially in the evenings and at night and the mornings when these dew points start getting into the 60s and then 50s by Thursday going into Friday. So this, for early September, is a good feel air mass and very welcomed. Next couple of days, still plenty of tropical moisture. You can kind of see that overall spin even showing up on our computer model, and that little instability will likely help to get those scattered storms going over the next couple of days. It doesn't look like we'll see as much coverage as we did today, but then once the front moves on through, we'll have a nice stretch of dry weather and more comfortable outside, which we do need. Watching Invest, again, not a very organized system at all, but really the area that is being highlighted for where it may try and organize would already be to our east, but more toward the Big Bend area of Florida, or we may not see it develop into the Atlantic, or we may not see it do anything at all in terms of organizing, because as I've been showing you the spaghetti plots, the ones that just kind of stop are the models that think this isn't going to do much in the southern Gulf of Mexico. The ones that continue on, and at the moment it's just one model, considers that it will try and get a little bit better of an organized system, but it will stay well away from us. And as I mentioned, with that northerly push, any of the associated moisture from Invest 91 is also likely going to stay a little bit more to our east. So it's looking more and more likely that we're not really going to see any impacts here. Good news is dry weather is on the way in terms of rainfall and lower humid air. That's going to make it feel a little bit more comfortable starting Thursday, Friday mornings. We could see temperatures easily dropping into the 60s. I do have us in the low 60s on the North Shore by Saturday morning. Muggy starting to come back by Sunday and Monday, but even then, not uncomfortable.
Well, we've been looking for the helpers in the wake of Ida, and there are plenty to be found today. Rain didn't stop Fat Boys Pizza from handing out slices to people in hard-hit Laplace.
Nothing like a big fat slice of pizza to keep you happy. The restaurant gave away those famous big slices for free. You can find a lot of these food giveaways around the area. It's really a wonderful thing. We have them listed parish by parish on our website, wwltv.com. And that does it for this special edition of the aftermath and ongoing recovery efforts of Hurricane Ida.
And stay with us after the break for the Eyewitness News at 5.
Live from WWL-TV, this is the Eyewitness News at 5.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Karen Swenson.
And I'm Katie Moore. We are continuing our extended coverage of the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. It's been more than a week since the storm made landfall as a powerful Category 4 in southeast Louisiana. Many people, thousands, tens of thousands, are still without power, many of them without water. The destruction is overwhelming to people just returning home.
And we have live team coverage spread across the region. Meg Ferris is in the Marigny with the latest developments from the state after 12 people died in nursing homes and senior living facilities.
And we're tracking when you should expect to have power back. Danny Monteverde's been talking with Entergy, and Ton Trung is in St. Charles Parish as residents begin to clean up without power or safe water.
All right, but first, much of southeast Louisiana under a flash flood watch today, and there is an area that we're watching in the tropics. Let's get to your local weather expert. And Chris, I'm assuming that's not going to be a threat to us, right?
No, and this was something really over the weekend. It started to look like perhaps we would see some kind of impact. Really, as of yesterday, and certainly the models today, it doesn't look like we're going to see anything if Invest 91 is able to organize, which is still very much a question, as the percent chance of it in the next 5 days is only at 30%. The percent chance of this has kind of maintained that very low status only because the models have been going kind of back and forth as to whether or not it would organize. And right now, they have been a little more consistent in saying it's not going to organize. The Gulf of Mexico is not the environment it was a week and a half ago with Ida. This is a far more hostile environment. You see dry air and strong wind shear over what broad circulation there may be associated with this system at the moment. There's actually a more robust area of convection north of the Yucatan, not really associated, but this is kind of an overall broad structured system, which again is not an organized feature by any means. And the models are indicating it's probably not going to organize in the Gulf of Mexico. And some of the models just kind of have it dissipating where it is, or maybe trying to drift northward, but not doing anything. The one model that does at least indicate that there may be something worth tracking has it moving near the Big Bend area of Florida and then moving out into the Atlantic Ocean, where maybe it develops there. And even that chance is fairly low. We did have a flash flood watch in effect and had one flash flood warning that was on the west bank. Thankfully, didn't amount to much of anything, had some heavy soaking rains, and the little boundaries kind of formed with the scattered showers kind of redeveloping late this evening. We'll likely have a bit more rain during the night tonight, or at least through the later evening hours, but nothing like what we saw earlier in the afternoon. Notice most of our clouds dissipating and some spots beginning to already see some clearing skies. Temperatures are right now in the 80s after the rain. Clouds moved out. Temperatures have started to rebound a bit, and we're right back into the low mid 80s, although the clouds and rainfall did help to keep our temperatures in check a bit. Dew points are in the 70s, but that is going to change as a cold front looks like it's going to move through on Thursday, with dew points dropping into the 50s and 60s, which means temperatures will be able to get into the 60s, both north and south shore by maybe Friday, but certainly by Saturday morning. So we will get a slight taste of fall weather by the end of the week. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. More than half of Entergy customers have their power back tonight, but there is still a lot of work left to do.
Danny Monteverdi spoke to Entergy earlier today and has the latest. Is this work on schedule, Danny, at this point?
Well, Karen, Entergy says the work is on schedule, but it still could be several days, or in some locations around southeast Louisiana, several weeks before the power is fully restored. Now, across the state, there were 467,000 people who have lights again tonight. At the height of the outage, 902,000 people were without service. Crews have been working for almost a week now to restore power. They're out in full force today in Kenner, just one location where work is ongoing. Entergy says work on the east and west banks of Jefferson Parish should wrap up by September 8th. In Orleans Parish, 70% of customers are back on tonight. Entergy expects it to be up to 90% of customers returned by Wednesday. Still, Entergy cautions that harder hit areas won't be back nearly as fast.
We got a lot of boots on the ground in the Grand Isle and those other hard hit areas in the Bayou region, and we're getting our restoration plans in place as we restore power to those areas.
Now, it could be September 29th before some of those hardest hit areas do get their lights back on. Now, Entergy says that with power coming on faster in some areas, such as the Baton Rouge area, they may be able to reroute some people and some equipment to make that work happen a little bit faster. But they say another wild card in this is just the fact that there is such widespread damage that when they do get to these far-flung, hard-hit areas, they could find things worse than they already think they are, which could lead to delays. But they say they're hopeful that they might be able to stick to that time frame of September 29th and not have it delayed any longer. Reporting live, Danny Monteverdi, Eyewitness News.
You know, Danny, that is such a hardship for people when you think about it. That is several weeks without power. Many of them are still displaced. Do you think that they're finding it harder once they get into some of these areas, like finding the damage more significant?
Yeah, and that's what Entergy is saying, Katie. They say that there have been some areas, even here in Orleans Parish, some neighborhoods out in the New Orleans East area, where once they go in to start making repairs, that they are finding things to be a little worse off than they thought they were. So again, keep in mind, in Orleans Parish and New Orleans proper, things were not all that bad, all things considered, and especially compared to some of the outlying areas. So they are cautioning that when they do have just these convoys of people who can get to, again, the farthest areas that were damaged, they are saying that they've done the assessment so far. They believe they know what they're dealing with, but there is always the possibility that once they get there, get boots on the ground, they could find things a little bit worse than they are than they believe it is, rather, and they'll have to do a little bit more work. And we should know too, on the conference call today with Entergy, they said this is not going to be a restoration effort in some of these hard hit areas. It's a rebuilding effort, and that should tell you something right there.
And that might be a good thing. We heard the president specifically mention that as part of his $1 trillion infrastructure bill. He talked or alluded to putting some of those lines underground.
Right, and that is, you know, I hate to say that there's any silver lining out of this, considering what has happened and what's still happening. But if there is any positive out of it, it could be sort of a rebuilding. Again, another awful situation was Katrina, but if there was any positive out of that, and again, I hate to use that term out of something so terrible, but look at what happened to the levees. They were built stronger and fortified better. So potentially there's a possibility that in some of these areas where things were just totally decimated and devastated, hopefully, and the idea seems to be that hopefully they'll, again, not just restore, but rebuild, and it'll be, in theory, newer and bigger and stronger.
Yes, and improved. Thank you very much, Danny. Appreciate that update. We also have an update on power restoration for CLECO customers on the North Shore. More than 85,000 people now have electricity in St. Tammany and Washington parishes. Crews out there right now restoring power.
And let's check in on outages in the Washington St. Tammany Electric Co-op. There are just over 7,000 people without power in St. Tammany, about 2,300 in Tangipahoa, and just over 900 in Washington Parish. In St. Charles Parish, residents will have to wait weeks before they will be able to turn the lights back on.
And that's not the only service that's down right now. Eyewitness News reporter Tan Trung shows us the conditions many are returning to.
Karen, Katie, like so many regions in southeast Louisiana right now, the shells of blown out buildings and blue tarps are lining the landscape here in St. Charles Parish, but some people just haven't gotten to the point to put a tarp on their roof. And today's rain made a tough situation even tougher.
I just got a bunch of stuff piled up in there under a tarp we're trying to save.
For more than 30 years, Kevin Bergeron's family filled this home with their love, stories, and memories.
You just look at it, you're overwhelmed. I mean, what else can you be? I mean, you come here, this is where we were retiring. We're going to live here the rest of our lives. This is my wife's grandfather's house.
Hurricane Ida ripped the roof off. Anything with sentimental value, Bergeron stuffed under this tarp.
My kids race BMX bikes.
He says it's rained here for the past 3 days. He's trying to find as many pictures as he can, including the ones that were hanging on a memory wall in the kitchen.
Everybody in our family that passed away had pictures of them right there, and we had paintings that her grandmother did, her aunt did, and all that. That was all there, her cousins.
Like clockwork, downpours came this afternoon, further dampening an already dark time.
I had 10 payments left on this house. That was it, and it's gone. Now I got to start all over again.
A few minutes away from Bergeron's home is Life Fellowship Community Church. It's where many people in Bayou Gauche gathered on Sundays. From the ground level or from the air, the damage from Hurricane Ida is clear. The crucifix on top of the church got battered, but it's still hanging on.
Well, I cried.
Claire Jett is the co-pastor here. On Sunday, they made sure to hold a service in the parking lot.
There's just such a discouragement and a brokenness that happened right after the storm. And so we wanted to show our people that even in the midst of a storm, we can still praise and we can still worship.
Up in Destrehan at St. Charles Borromeo Church, volunteers from Bogalusa served up fresh barbecue on this Labor Day. Kids displaced from school kept busy by being part of the operation to feed families affected by the storm. With power still weeks away in parts of this parish, a hot meal at this time can be a blessing.
Thank you, Miss Donna. I mean, you can see.
Back in Bayou Gauche, Kevin Bergeron doesn't quite know the next steps to take in the long road ahead, but he knows where it'll lead. He plans to rebuild what the storm stripped away.
We can rebuild it, it's just stuff. That's what I keep telling my granddaughter. She lives with me too. It's just stuff.
And as you heard Danny reporting, while many parts of the metro area are now getting power, it's estimated down here that it's going to take up to 5 weeks for power to be fully restored. A long road ahead for everybody in St. Charles Parish. Reporting from Destrehan, Tan Trung, Eyewitness News.
Tan, did you get any sense being down there how many people are back?
It's hard to say, Katie, right now because the traffic going in and out of this area is fairly heavy. But people are staying kind of right where they are in terms of their homes. But it really depends at this point of people being able to stay in their homes. As you saw with Kevin Bergeron, it's a very tough situation because he doesn't have a roof on top of his home right now, and he hasn't gotten to the point that he can put a tarp on there. And that church that was down the road from him, there's people going in and out getting supplies, and they're doing what they can to give people their basic needs. But it's also the spiritual needs right now too. That's why they wanted to make sure that they held that service on Sunday, and they said they're determined to have another service this Sunday as well. So to answer your question, it's very hard to gauge how many people are coming back. It seems very crowded right now, but that's only a snapshot because, as you know, after a storm, those areas that you can travel usually see a lot of traffic. It really depends on the accessibility of roads. There are still down power lines in some neighborhoods too, and it really ultimately depends on whether people can have the supplies that they need and also that shelter that they need to stay where they are.
Okay, Ton, you also think about the fact that kids are going to be out of school for an extended period of time and not be back into their homes for so long. It's just heartbreaking. Thank you so much for that report. And for 4 days now that we've been telling you about the dire living conditions after Hurricane Ida, like we just mentioned, and that includes for seniors in nursing homes and independent living apartments.
Yeah, Mayor LaToya Cantrell is now speaking out about what city inspectors found in some of those apartments. Meg Ferris joins us with more from that Christopher Inn apartment in the Marigny. Meg.
That's right, Karen. And to be clear, now we're not talking about the nursing home situation that both of you reported on throughout the state. This is about senior living type apartments here in Orleans. And this, as you said, Christopher Inn is one of the ones where all the people here were told they had to leave. And those who had nowhere to go, they were first taken to the convention center, and then they were sent to different shelters around the state. And today, Mayor Cantrell had some direct words for the people responsible.
I do not play the blame game. If there is an issue that this is a city matter, I own it every step of the way, including all of the people who stand with me to deliver services. This is not one of them. I think accountability needs to be where it is, and that's on these institutions, the diocese, whomever.
Mayor LaToya Cantrell made her position crystal clear. She had strong words for owners and managers, including the Archdiocese, of senior living buildings who left them in the heat after Hurricane Ida. Councilwoman Kristen Palmer did too.
They're hiding under this loophole of independent living. They're like, whoa, 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 it's not our responsibility, it's independent living. I'm like, it's not independent living if there's no power and you're in a wheelchair on the 4th floor.
The councilwoman took these pictures on the front of an apartment building. She says posting emergency numbers, then evacuating, is not an acceptable substitute for those paid to run these facilities. There were buildings where no maintenance person was there to even hook up the generator. This man lives in Christopher Inn. He feels fortunate that he has another place to go and didn't have to be evacuated on a bus to an out-of-town shelter. How did you sleep at night with no air conditioning in your apartment?
Barely slept, yes. I mean, you know, they had a little breeze coming in through the windows. Everybody had their doors open, so that kind of worked for us, but it wasn't easy.
The city is waiting for coroner's reports on the causes of the people who died.
From Friday and Saturday, there were 5 identified deaths in senior apartment buildings that we found. I have not heard of others since then, which I pray is going to be the case.
While we were at Christopher Inn today, we saw several cars with city officials waiting to get in the building. And I'm told by the city that those inspectors did eventually get in here at Christopher Inn, and they've just wrapped up their inspection. Now, if you want to find out where one of your loved ones is in a shelter around the state, I have that phone number for you, and it's open between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. to call this line. It's 225-342-2727, 225-342-2727. Reporting live from the Marigny, Meg Ferris, Eyewitness News.
Meg, 2 questions. Do we know who owns the Christopher Inn, since most of your story was about that? And has the Archdiocese responded to these allegations?
I can tell you about the Archdiocese question, Karen, that I did put in a call to their public information person to say we were doing this report, and had they seen what the mayor had to say today at the presser, because she was very strong, and I have not heard back from them. I do not know at this time who owns this particular building.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to hear what the Archdiocese has to say in response to this story. All right, Meg, thank you. We also have a better idea of what conditions were like inside that warehouse in Independence. 800 residents, significantly more than that, were taken to that building before the storm.
Yeah, the Louisiana Department of Health says the warehouse had been evaluated before Ida hit, and officials said the facility did have the minimum necessary components to provide a safe sheltering environment for a very short period of time. They added that conditions clearly deteriorated after the storm.
The LDH also revealed residents were found in varying stages of undress and did not have adequate medical care. As they said, there was trash on the floor and clothes, and you could just smell urine and feces in the building. Hospitals that received the patients, they said it was clear they had been neglected. Now, In the wake of the storm, we have been blessed with many examples of people helping people. In Lafourche Parish, people started lining up for free gas early this morning.
It's so great, and it's something that's so desperately needed in the community during that long road to recovery. And Molly Oak has that story for us.
In Golden Meadow, gas is still hard to come by.
People need it.
Because when Hurricane Ida
Terrible.
hit Lafourche Parish, it hit hard.
Very hard. I ain't never been through one like this before.
Over a week later, and power is still out. The humming of generators fills the air. On Monday,
Okay, I need you to print and sign, please.
Bayou Community Foundation organized a gas giveaway. 20 gallons given to each car.
Everyone needs it.
The truck filled with 8,500 gallons of free gas. The people lined up for hours.
I've been here since 5:30. I know that a lot of them's been here earlier than me. But we need to get gas for the generator.
Each with their own needs.
I've been getting gas and I've been transporting it to people that need it that can't get out and get it. I got a bunch of elderly people that have oxygen machines and they need gas. That's where this gas is going to.
This community saw some of the worst of the storm.
Oh man, it's heartbreaking.
But things like this
Just get close to the canopy, thank you.
help them see the best of the community.
That's a community pulling together. That is great. Cajun country. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, that was Molly Oak reporting. And the Bayou Community Foundation is going to give gas away tomorrow and Wednesday.
I was smiling just because I heard him say Cajun country. That's what we're all about. Yeah, that was nice to hear. The free gas will be at Grand Caillou Middle School in Houma tomorrow and at Montague Middle School on Wednesday. Both start at 9 a.m.
Yeah, and still ahead on the Eyewitness News at 5. We're headed to the lower Jefferson Parish.
In that area, like so many others, beginning to recover. The new hope they have tonight.
Plus, the money you get from FEMA tonight if you bought a generator or a chainsaw.
Good news tonight for some in Plaquemines Parish. The boil water advisory has been lifted for those who live on the West Bank, and the water is safe to drink there.
Yeah, and the same goes for Jefferson Parish. Water is also safe to drink in most of the West Bank. The boil water advisory was lifted everywhere except Grand Isle.
All right, in Lower Jefferson Parish, Lafitte has a tough recovery ahead. Many roads still flooded, impassable, mud caking everything, including the inside of many homes. And we've been there as neighbors use their mud boats to transport supplies in and their neighbors out.
Yeah. In Barataria, many people are cut off and in need of supplies, and a barge hit the swing bridge and knocked it off its axis, making it impassable.
The National Guard is now ferrying equipment and supplies there.
The Louisiana National Guard tweeted out this video this afternoon as they utilize the floating bridge to bring those supplies in and those emergency equipment in as well to help people there.
And, you know, people are starting to come back to Lafourche Parish, but officials warn anyone returning there, you better bring everything you need to survive. The power's out. The gas is super hard to come by.
And there's a boil advisory for the entire parish except for Thibodaux.
We talked to the Lafourche Sheriff's Office, who detailed the extent of the damage.
We have entire streets where homes are just completely leveled. There's areas where there's no evidence that homes ever existed in that area. It's just completely devastating. Some buildings were completely gutted in the central portion of our parish. Really, I think it's safe to say that 100% of homes in Lafourche Parish sustained some level of damage. Some was very minor, going all the way to, again, just complete devastation of a residence.
It's actually incredible that there were any structures in Lafourche Parish that had only minor damages. Boy, the bayou parishes, river parishes just got slammed. We're trying to get that weather a little bit more cooperative for all the recovery, rebuilding efforts. And the rain that we saw today certainly didn't help. Most of the big storms gone. Looks like a little boundary from southern Mississippi into the lake has started to refire with some scattered shower thunderstorms, though nothing as intense as what we saw earlier in the day. But around the Pearlington to Slidell, we do have some thunderstorms that have been developing. Most of these will be wrapping up shortly. And then it looks like, other than maybe a few more showers and thunderstorms that could bubble up during the overnight, most of the overnight period is quiet. Did you notice on the computer model how you have this little broad circulation? There is a little upper feature that is helping our rain coverage today. It's why our heavy rainfall that we did see today prompted a flash flood warning. Now, coverage and intensity aren't going to be nearly as great over the next couple of days, but certainly some scattered showers and thunderstorms tomorrow, and then fewer by Wednesday. Good news is it looks like whatever happens to Invest 91, we're not really going to see any of the rainfall associated with it. So that is some good news kind of looking forward, and more good news in terms of a cold front moving through. 84 degrees right now under mostly cloudy skies, though we have started to see some clearing of the skies. 88 degrees was our high today. That was set before the noon hour. Then the low for the day was at 138. That was when we started to get some of the rainfall around the area. And the rain moved out, a little bit of sunshine at Kenner, and temperatures have started to rebound a bit, back up to 84 degrees. 85 at Slidell. They had been at 88, but with a little bit of thunderstorm development there, it did knock the temperatures by a few degrees. And more scattered storms over the next couple of days, but a cold front is on the way for Thursday, bringing with it some less humid air. We're also watching Invest 91, but it does not look like it's going to impact us. This is kind of an upper trough that is sitting just to our north. You can kind of see that push coming in from the north. Really, it's a little upper feature that is sitting right over us. This little upper feature is what got our rain coverage going on the higher side today and tomorrow. But it looks like as this starts to slide south, that's going to help pick up Invest 91 and move it away from us. So we are not looking at an impact from that system at all. In fact, as that upper feature moves on through, it's also going to clear out any moisture, so any associated rainfall associated with 91 is not likely to impact us. And building into the latter part of the week, an upper trough and a ridge out west will reinforce a northerly push, which will help to bring in some drier air, which is going to make it feel much nicer. With dew points generally in the lows, sometimes mid-70s, will start falling by Thursday morning into the 60s, and then by Friday, falling into the 50s. Now this is a little bit more of a taste of fall-like weather, at least for early September standards, and that will make it feel a little bit more pleasant outside, as still by that point there are going to be a number of folks without power. But even if you do have electricity, a lot of folks are complaining, all right, it gets comfortable outside, I'm already going to have power. Well, be thankful because a lot of us are going to be outdoors cleaning up during that time. Scattered storms wrapping up during the overnight period and maybe some showers bubbling up early, but most of our rain and storms will be developing with some afternoon heating. Later in the week, here comes that cold front. That will start to sweep on through. It'll get rid of the moisture, but also get rid of the rainfall. So we'll have a nice dry stretch of weather looking forward into the weekend. Invest 91 is not looking organized at all, and most of the computer models are indicating the Gulf of Mexico is just going to remain too hostile for anything to really get going. If we were to see any kind of organization with it, it probably wouldn't be until it is already more to our east and moving toward Florida and out into the open Atlantic. And as I was showing you on the spaghetti plot, there are several models which indicate it's just going to die where it is. And then if it does start to move toward the, say, Big Bend area of Florida, that may be its best opportunity to see any kind of development, because right now the Gulf of Mexico just is not very favorable for anything to form. The Gulf of Mexico right now is not what it was a week and a half ago. And notice the GFS just kind of has a blob of rain in the central and eastern Gulf of Mexico, which then starts to move over Florida. And there's kind of any low level, maybe some kind of broad circulation. But right now the models are not aggressive with that. So let's consider ourselves lucky that we're not looking at a tropical system. 50% chance of rain tomorrow. We'll start to decrease that rain chance by Wednesday, and then dry and less humid. A very comfortable several days with morning lows falling into the 60s and lower 70s.
All right, sounds pretty good. Thank you, Chris. It's still ahead on the Eyewitness News at 5. You might be able to get some of your money back in your pocket.
All right, that is if you will have bought some major equipment after the storm by a particular date. How you can qualify after the break.
Okay, so this is a question that I've heard asked a lot, and we have some good news tonight. Representative Garrett Graves tweeted today that if you have been approved for individual FEMA assistance, you are now eligible for generator and chainsaw reimbursements. You can receive up to $800 for a generator and up to $250 for a chainsaw to cut down those trees. But the timing matters. According to FEMA, the window for eligible claims started on August 26th. 2021. I'll get it out eventually.
Okay, so right before the storm, FEMA
Yes.
will only pay to replace a generator that broke during the storm. And here's just a few tips as many continue to live without power and are using those generators. Don't use them inside a home, a garage, in a carport, any sort of enclosed area. Keep them outside, 20 feet away at least from vents, windows, and doors. And turn off your generators and let them cool down for about 20 minutes before refueling them, and always install a CO alarm. They cost about $20.
In St. John the Baptist, progress is slow, but it's being made. We spoke with the parish president, Jacqueline Hotard, earlier today by phone about it.
And she says communication is improving. Water has been restored to a good part of the parish, and power has come back on for a few residents. It'll be a long road to recovery, though, but Hotard says she is appreciative for all the work that is being done. Still, the past 8 days have been a mixed bag of emotions.
I really can't put into words what's going on, because on one hand we have devastation and pain and hurt, and then on the other hand there's hopefulness, there is a feeling of sense of community.
All right, in other news now, divers in the Gulf of Mexico have been able to identify the location of a pipe leak that is spilling oil into the Gulf. The Coast Guard says the pipe on the ocean floor broke open during the hurricane. Houston-based Talos Energy is paying for the cleanup, but they say the pipe is not theirs. Aerial photos from the Associated Press show the miles-long slick about 2 miles south of Port Fourchon.
Longtime advocate columnist Scott Rabelais wrote today, Ed Ogeron's future is now the story of this LSU football season. That seems hard to believe a year and a half after winning the national championship, but that is the reality. The real issue for the LSU Tigers, many of the same problems of 2020 were still present in that UCLA opener, but it's also just one game. Ogeron and company now have 2 tune-ups before facing Mississippi State in the SEC opener. And Saturday night, Ogeron will coach against his son. Mandeville High's Cody Ogeron quarterbacks McNeese, and the Cowboys are coached by St. Aug alum Frank Wilson, who's a longtime Ogeron friend and assistant.
We welcome the opportunity. Again, thankful to be able to go there and play this game. And I expect the very best from LSU. There won't be any empathy. I promise you that. They're not feeling sorry for us. They're trying to win their first game of the season just as we are. And so we'll go compete.
I've always dreamed about playing in Death Valley. Obviously, it's a very unique situation playing against my dad. But at the same time, it's just another football game. 11 on 11. We go out there and fight and compete and, let the best man win. But obviously going out there in an atmosphere like that, playing in Death Valley, first home game of the season, full capacity, couldn't be more excited.
And Ed Ogeron will do his weekly press conference tomorrow, saying he's going to get a lot of questions about his future. Karen?
Thanks very much, Doug. Stay with us after the break. We'll continue to follow the very latest on the conditions of the most elderly and vulnerable of our society.
What Mayor Cantrell is saying tonight about the conditions found in Orleans Parish.
From WWL-TV, this is continuing coverage of the Hurricane Ida aftermath.
Tonight, a better idea of what conditions were like inside that warehouse in Independence where 800 senior residents were taken to the building before the storm.
And those indications are it wasn't good. The Louisiana Department of Health says the warehouse had been evaluated before the Ida hit.
From WWL-TV, this is continuing coverage of the Hurricane Ida aftermath.
Tonight, a better idea of what the conditions were like inside that Independence warehouse where 800 senior and elderly and infirm residents were taken to the building before the storm.
The Louisiana Department of Health is saying the warehouse had been evaluated before Ida hit, and officials determined the facility did have, quote, the minimum necessary components to provide a safe sheltering environment for a very short period of time, adding conditions clearly deteriorated following the storm.
The LDH also revealed residents were found in varying stages of undress. They didn't have the adequate medical care. There was clothing and linens and trash on the floor and urine and feces in the air, the stench of it. Hospitals that received the patients said that these patients had clearly been neglected. And we heard from New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell today about a situation at several area senior living centers where several residents were found dead.
Cantrell says the priority now is making sure that these residents have a safe place to return to and holding those responsible accountable.
We're going to make sure that the city continues to prioritize these facilities, particularly those that not only we had to close, but I'm very concerned about our seniors coming back to the city and back to the conditions that they left. So prior to allowing for that to occur, I'm making it very clear that the city is going to do thorough inspections with this building strike team so that, again, we can ensure that the conditions are not only improved, but that they are in compliance. And what we found.
All right, the mayor says that the focus now is making sure like something like that never happens again. Another big issue in New Orleans tonight, debris in the streets and intersections without power.
City leaders are urging drivers to be very careful out there on the roads.
DPW is setting up an emergency contract for streetlight and street signpost damage assessments. Contractor will be selected today and assessments start this week. We have, I think, over 540 stop signs that are out there. They're A-frame stop signs. I have to discipline myself to do this when driving throughout the city. Even if you don't see one, if you see a down traffic light, it's a four-way stop sign. Stop, stop, drive slowly. It is a very dangerous place out there in our city, particularly at nighttime. And we have men and women working everywhere throughout this city. Drive very slowly, look out for them. They have families and children just like you do, and they want to get home to see them at the end of the day.
A man died last night after being hit by multiple cars on an unlit street. It happened on Berman Highway in Terrytown around 8 p.m. State police say a 52-year-old man was walking in an eastbound lane near Park Place Drive when a car hit him and kept driving. And while he was lying in the road, he was hit by several other cars. State police say the street was very dark. There was no power on the street because of Ida, so there were no street lights. If you know anything about that situation, call Crime Stoppers. You can stay anonymous. When we come back, we're going to take a break from the Ida aftermath just for a moment.
As the governor reminded us, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, the latest New Orleans legend we've lost, and how the community is remembering him. As people are returning home to start the repairs on the damage left behind by Hurricane Ida, there are a lot of questions about how to get help from your insurance company.
And Duke Carter breaks down what officials say you should do right now.
Well, State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon wants to make sure that people are not bogged down with the process. You can see behind me just how massive that tree is that hit the home. They want to make sure that it's easier for people to recover, especially the folks behind me, as soon as possible. And so State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon is asking insurers to be fair with the claims process. He and President Biden have noticed insurance companies are not paying claims because there was no mandatory evacuation. Donelon said in a news conference he is urging insurers to pay claims with a voluntary or no evacuation order. He said the issue of mandatory evacuation is not about insurance. Instead, it should be about people's safety. Donelon said that some companies have already started to waive the mandatory evacuation provision.
People had to get out of harm's way in a very short period of time. And this circumstance certainly dictated that kind of action by our local leaders. I concur, and on Friday I issued a bulletin urging the insurers to do as the President suggested and as I'm requesting, and not impose that requirement of a mandatory evacuation order. So far I've heard about 3 companies.
Now, the insurance commissioner is asking people to file their claim as soon as possible, because the sooner you file, the better you're going to get the adjuster on scene, and you'll get a reputable contractor and not fall victim to a scam. Now, if there are any questions about this, you're asked to call the state office at 1-800-259-5300. For now, the reporting, Duke Carter, Eyewitness News.
I know it concerned a lot of folks late last week and early in the weekend as we were watching yet another disturbance move toward the Gulf. The good news is, 1, it doesn't look like it's going to affect us at all, and 2, it doesn't look like it's going to become an organized system in the Gulf, or maybe ever. It is still being tracked with only a 0% chance of developing in the next 2 days. Whatever does happen is not going to be fast, and even in the 3, 4, and 5-day forecast, the chance of development, or where we would have a named storm, is only at 30%. It just does not really look very likely. It's still possible, but not very likely. And the area that is being highlighted is the area where we could see it organized. The X shows us where the center of that invest is right now. And so where it could develop is a little more to our east. Where it is right now is due south. Bay of Campeche. Do you see anything organizing there? No. Strong wind shear, very dry air on the western side that keeps getting fed over that center. Is not really doing much of anything. In terms of organizing, maybe, but that chance looks very low. And we've been showing you the spaghetti plot as most of the models kind of drift it northward and then start taking that system to the east and away from us. And it looks like we're going to start to get some drier air in that would likely keep any of the associated rainfall away from us as well. Speaking of rainfall unassociated with that invest, we've had some scattered showers and thunderstorms, heavier at times earlier in the day. Still some activity in parts of St. Tammany, but most of it is now in Hancock County, and even that is winding down.
Chris, thank you very much. We are learning tonight that a beloved New Orleans musician has died.
Founding tuba player of the Hot 8 brass band. Created in 1996, it's one of the city's most well-known groups. They're famous for funk-style brass music, and several sources, including the Save Our Brass Culture Foundation, reported that Pete passed away just a few weeks after being diagnosed with COVID-19.
Of course, the tributes pouring in across social media. Wendell Pierce tweeted that Pete was, quote, central to the resurgence of New Orleans traditional brass music to a new generation, and that he was a big man with a big talent. Others say they're just numb, that they lost, quote, one of the realists.
Larry Blumenfeld saying he was the gentlest mountain of a man there ever was, who could spark joy and sound protest with his tuba. The post-Katrina youth saying that his music resonated with them, and that's how I first got to know Benny Pete, is through Rob Wayne High School. He and, of course, as we know, Daryl Shavers, who was tragically killed after Katrina, really went to work with the kids at that school in the years after Katrina because they had no band, no football team, no extracurricular activities, and they wanted to really get the youth where they are the best at being able to soak up all that culture and the great things about our city, and it was just amazing to get to know him. It's just heartbreaking tonight.
Well, it is, and yet every one of those children he touched are his legacy. right, moving forward. But it's also such a painful reminder that in the midst of the tragedy that is Ida, we are still very much in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah, we certainly are. And, you know, you think about the kids of Katrina, now you're going to have some of the kids of Ida who have been so deeply affected by the situation. And Benny Pete was there for it. He was there to try and get the culture back to the kids of New Orleans, and he was really there to make a difference. And it just was such a wonderful thing to see after Katrina, to get to know the members of Hot 8, some of them, and just to report on that story. And I know that this is a great loss for our culture, for the people of our music economy in the city, and it's a great loss.
And we will, we certainly send our sympathy to his friends and family. It'd be interesting to see how the city is able to mourn given the current conditions too. I'm not sure if there'll be a second line. I would imagine there will be. We haven't been made aware of one yet, but we'll keep you updated on those plans. In the meantime, COVID, of course, on the mind of the governor, even as he continues to tour the parishes that were damaged by Ida. Yesterday, he stressed the importance of keeping COVID top of mind.
It's all very challenging to know that we're still in the fourth surge of COVID. Now, we're doing better than we were, but we still have more people in the hospital today than we had at any point during the first three surges. And you know, I like to make this point, not because it warms my heart, but because it's important to make. 13 deaths from the storm thus far. The last 7 days that we reported, and we didn't report yesterday or today, the last 7 days we reported our COVID deaths were 350. So it's incumbent upon all of us to do what we can to minimize transmission in cases, to minimize hospitalizations and deaths. And you know, our healthcare workers have just been slammed for a year and a half.
As of this morning, the New Orleans RTA is back up and running. That's a little good news in all of this. All the bus routes are operating on a modified Saturday schedule daily until further notice. Buses will also be running on the Canal Street and St. Charles Street streetcar lines. Service is going to run from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day.
And for people without power, one of the New Orleans Public Library branches is open today. It'll provide access to computers, Wi-Fi, phone charging stations, and air conditioning. The Central City Library opens in less than an hour. And that'll be, okay, this is an old script. It'll be open from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. located on Jackson Avenue. The other library branches are still closed.
Except
we need
for 2.
I was just going to say we need to check that script because I believe there are 2 others. I believe there is a total of 3.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So check our website for more information on that, and we will make sure it's updated for our 6 o'clock show. That is our news at 5. Thank you for joining us.
And we'll see you on the other side of this break for the Eyewitness News at 6. Stay with us.
Live from WWL-TV, this is the Eyewitness News at 6.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for staying with us for our continuing coverage of the Hurricane Ida aftermath. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Karen Swenson. The latest update from Entergy shows more progress in restoring power.
Baby steps. It includes 70% of the people in New Orleans who lost power.
But some are frustrated with the alerts claiming they have power, but finding they don't in actuality. Danny Monteverdi joins us live with more on this story. Danny.
Yeah, that's right, Karen. Across the state, everyone who lost power, about 50% of those people now have it. But as you said, there are some people getting a notification that they've got power back, only to find out they haven't received power again. Here's a look at where things stand with Entergy tonight. Work to get the lights back on continued in Kenner on Monday. Crews were busy removing down poles at Williams and Vintage. It's a similar scene across all of southeast Louisiana right now, and there was encouraging news when it comes to numbers. 51% of customers who lost power now have it back. In Orleans Parish in particular, 70% of the lights are on again.
And this is amazing to me considering the unprecedented levels of damage and devastation that we've seen.
Entergy says work to get most lights on in the city and Jefferson Parish this week is on schedule. But officials caution that crews can and will find damage that causes delays.
Those areas that are impacted include neighborhoods in Milneburg, Seabrook, Gentilly Terrace, Edgewood Park.
While much of the city has power again, portions don't. Much has been made of problems with Entergy's outage map not properly updating. Now there are issues with text notifications alerting people about the status of their power.
Our text today said that restoration is complete. So I'm like, yeehaw, so I go rushing in the house, turn on the lights, and no lights.
I was totally excited, and then it didn't happen. So it's a big disappointment, because it's just so darn hot, you know?
It is something that we are working on. It's a technical glitch that we are working to resolve, and it's due to the magnitude of the damages caused by the storm, and affecting other connectivity issues.
And so while there are people tonight who are getting their power back, we should note that there are plenty of people in our viewing area who are going to be in for a long haul without power. St. Charles, St. John, Terrebonne, and Lafourche. It's estimated some of the power could come back on there September 29th. Reporting live, Danny Monteverdi, Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you, Danny. Much more to come on that story, of course. And we have some good news for the people on the west bank of Jefferson Parish. The water system, of course, we know was ripped up by the roots of downed trees in the storm. The boil water advisory has been lifted for the west bank, everywhere but Grand Isle. It's going to remain in effect on the east bank, at least for now.
And the west bank of Plaquemines Parish had been under a boil water advisory as well tonight. That has been lifted from the Parish line to the Phillips 66 refinery in Alliance. The boil order does remain, though, in place going south to Venice and for the entire east bank of Plaquemines.
More and more progress every day, right? Yeah, well, many seniors, they have suffered through Hurricane Ida and the storm's aftermath.
And we're learning more about the conditions of some senior living apartments. Meg Ferris joins us now with more on that from Christopher Inn in the Marigny. Meg?
Yes, Karen, and the city gave us an update and talked about the issue today. And what they told us was tonight the city is confirming that 5 people died in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida in New Orleans senior independent living apartments. These are different from nursing homes. Now, places like the Christopher Inn, which you asked me last hour, is owned by the Archdiocese of New Orleans, is one of the 8 that were evacuated, and people with nowhere else to go were sent to shelters across the state. And the mayor today had very strong and direct words for owners and managers.
Well, one thing about it, I do not play the blame game. If there is an issue that this is a city matter, I own it every step of the way, including all of the people who stand with me to deliver services. This is not one of them. I think accountability needs to be where it is, and that's on these institutions, the diocese, whomever, who is responsible for operating, maintaining, and protecting the lives of the elderly, which they're paid to do.
And Councilwoman Kristen Palmer also had some strong words, and she told us that there were some places they went to and the generator had a lock on it. It wasn't even hooked up, and the managers had left town, evacuated for the storm. Now, if you want to find a loved one that was in one of these 8 senior living apartments and you don't know where he or she is, you can call between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. There's a line to help you find a family member, and that's 225-342-2727. 225-342-2727. Reporting live from the Marigny, Meg Ferris, Eyewitness News.
And Meg, so many people are going to be infuriated by this report. I know you said at 5 o'clock you had reached out to the Archdiocese for comment. Have they gotten back to you yet?
They have not gotten back to me. They're usually very good about that, but I have not even heard anything back saying we'll get you the answer you need or more on that later. So no, I have not heard back today.
All right, Meg, a lot of people asking that question. Thank you so much. In St. Charles Parish, the lack of power at some sewage lift stations is leading to some strong odors in several communities. It is estimated that that power may be restored in about 5 weeks.
That is such a long time, and people are continuing to recover from the storm, and they're finding some symbols of hope in it all, even with those difficult conditions. Ton Trong reports from St. Charles Parish.
The Cross at Life Fellowship Community Church is battered, bent, but not broken. Claire Jett is the co-pastor at this church in Bayou Gauche. When she looks at the church's steeple, she sees hope.
Well, I cried, and then I said, okay, what can I do to fix it?
Pastor Jett says the history of this church goes back more than 100 years. It started down the bayou and came up the road here. Now they're trying to figure out the future.
The insurance came today. We're looking at if they're going to scrap our building and start all over, or if we're going to be able to maybe repair it. But right now we're looking at getting a tent in our parking lot, and we're going to continue to have services.
The neighborhood surrounding the church took a beating from Hurricane Ida. From any angle, the damage is eye-opening.
Well, you come in and all you could do is just cry.
A few minutes up the road, Kevin Bergeron is trying to figure out the next steps for his family.
When you lose everything you've worked for, I mean, I'm planning on retiring in 5 years. I had 10 payments left on this house. That was it. And it's gone. Now I got to start all over again. I'm 57 years old.
The hurricane tore off their roof. Then several days of rain soaked everything inside.
I'd been inside for the last probably 4 or 5 days trying to save what I could inside because the whole ceilings fell in. Everything's getting wet.
For more than 30 years, this home held his family's memories and stories. Anything with sentimental value that Bergeron can save is going under this tarp. This afternoon's rain brought more misery for Bergeron and anyone who hasn't been able to cover their roof damage.
All right, y'all have a good day.
With all that the storm has turned upside down, you'd be forgiven if you forgot today is Labor Day. Volunteers from Bogalusa came to the parish with barbecue to give a taste and perhaps a reminder of better times. Throughout Louisiana are exchanges of generosity and gratitude.
They've come together to bless one another. I haven't met one greedy person. Everyone says, you know, save that for someone who needs it more.
Those are qualities a storm cannot strip away. In Bayou Gauche, Tan Trung, Eyewitness News.
Now, in Tangipahoa Parish, President Robbie Miller, he says Hurricane Ida impacted each and every person there, obviously, right?
Yeah, recovery is just a long way off, but people there are working to come back, and they're helping their neighbors do the same. Maria Aguilera is live in Hammond with the latest from there. Maria?
The city of Hammond has suffered a lot of damage. Where we're standing right now is now a dead end. Here it is being blocked by downed power lines, and all around us are trees. Most roads are now drivable, but people still have no power.
We're going to get y'all taken care of, okay? You're welcome.
The community of Hammond beginning the road to recovery a week after Hurricane Ida hit. The needs are many while resources are few. A local church partnering with the American Red Cross to provide emergency supplies and hot meals to their neighbors. Beacon Light Baptist Church pastor Dennis Aber says they want to be a light for others in this time of need.
That's been the motivation, the driving force, that as we are a blessing to someone else, God is going to make sure that we continue to have the motivation, the focus, and the strength to continue to go forward.
Dozens lined up to pick up cleaning supplies like rakes, shovels, tarps.
Everybody's working together.
Louisiana Avenue, where Lisa Williams lives, suffered severe damage.
It nailed it, bammed it in the ground right here.
An uprooted tree damaged 3 of her cars.
It's horrible. It's just horrible.
Her home has some damage as well.
You don't know what to do. You don't know how to start. The house is a mess. Everything is a mess, and you just don't know what to do.
People have been without power for days. Star Stevens owns a pet grooming business. She says that's her livelihood.
I'm just taking it one day at a time, and we're trying to do cleanup, and luckily, as you see here, it didn't hit the house, so at least we're blessed.
Crews like the National Guard cutting trees and removing debris.
This is as long as I've been without power.
Bobby Jones has lived on this street for 20 years.
This is the worst I ever seen experiment in my lifetime.
This community was feeling forgotten, but now they're just working to pick up the pieces.
We have nowhere to go, so we just have to be strong and come on, fight through this.
Today, crews have began removing debris, which this community says they are thankful for, but now they're just hoping for their power to be back, as you can imagine. Back to you in the studio.
Indeed. All right. Thank you very much. Of course, so many people have stories of very close calls during Hurricane Ida.
Yeah, coming up, we have a woman who survived a frightening situation in Ponchatoula when a tree fell on her house.
And we're under a flash flood watch tonight. I have an updated local weather experts forecast coming up next. Well, first responders have been working overtime for over a week now in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida.
It has been tough, but many groups are stepping up to say thanks. One of the best ways we know how, through food, of course. Julissa Garza is joining us live from Covington tonight at one of the thank you dinners that's happening on the North Shore tonight. This is so great for them. I hope everybody's enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. You can see a lot of smiles on many people's faces. We're here in Covington at the Tammany Parish Justice Center, where the parish and the Louisiana Coastal Relief and Recovery put together this first responder dinner. There's a lot of volunteers here who have been working all day in this heat to make sure that food is ready, that drinks are ready, and just really helping each other out, thanking those first responders that have been working so hard. And with me, I have the Vice President of Development for Camellia Bay and Resort and Casino, David Ritvo. Now, Mr. Ritvo, you guys were able to pull this together and provide all this food.
Yes, so we're honored to be able to provide food and a hot meal for the first responders, the fire, the police chief, police and EMTs. You know, they've been working very hard to get recovery efforts going in this parish, and so to be able to provide a hot meal for them is something that we're very proud of.
And there's another location in Slidell that's doing the same thing today.
That's correct. At Patton's Restaurant on Cleveland Street in Slidell, we have another station set up on the east side of St. Tammany Parish to service those first responders as well. And that is open right now and will be open for the next couple hours as well. So we invite any family members, first responders and family members to come by and enjoy a great hot meal for tonight from Camellia Bay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, as you can see, lots of volunteers working together, providing these meals. Like I said earlier, there have been a lot of smiles on everyone's face, everyone just being positive. Some of the volunteers I spoke with still without power, but say they're out here to lend a helping hand and thank those first responders for working so hard. Reporting live, Julissa Garza, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. That is such a great thank you for them. We appreciate it. Well, parts of Tangipahoa Parish have seen some really devastating damage from Ida's winds.
Yeah, the storm sent trees crashing down in Ponchatoula, where one woman says she's lucky she survived. Photojournalist Derek Waldrop has her story.
The winds were just starting to gust up, and we were just inside and coming out on the porch and watching the rain and everything. Then I had went upstairs to the bathroom real quick and came back down, and the tree hit.
You were right in here.
I was, yeah, the toilet is right there. Wow. And then my jacuzzi tub, and then my shower. And so for about an hour, I had to calm my son down because he was like, you were just there. What it did was it busted a water pipe, and so water flowed down into the 3 rooms below it. I have so much to do, so it's kind of surreal that it happened. I thank God that I'm alive, because I could have easily been dead with my family in the bottom of the house, you know. So I wouldn't have wanted to put them through that. Yeah. And so I just have so many things to do right now, but I'm extremely grateful for just, you know, being alive, and you know, just friends and family that are checking on me and everything. The devastation this is just one of them. I mean, there's so much devastation, you know, with the, you know, trees on the houses, but I mean, so many people have trees so in their yards to the point where it looked like they probably couldn't get in or out of, you know, their homes. So that, you know, it's like, this is just one of the many, I'm sure.
And that was photojournalist Derek Waldrop reporting. So glad that she's okay.
Absolutely. So many stories like that. It's just harrowing. And we're going to be right back with more Hurricane Ida coverage right after this.
Well, Metairies Fat Boys Pizza handed out free pizza in Laplace today.
That had to be so good for people up there. The area is still without power, and Candace Charles reports that this pizza giveaway was a reminder to some of those residents that Laplace is certainly not forgotten.
In the middle of the darkness that Hurricane Ida brought to Laplace, a bright spot, a sure sign of how this resilient community is coming together even during the darkest of times.
You can see the water line right there.
Gallons of water rushed into the Brock's home when Hurricane Ida hit.
And then the wind, you could hear that woo, and the way it was sounding.
It was scary.
It was very scary.
It was scary.
With damage to their home, belongings, and cars, surviving has been tough. Now the couple is running on a generator, but getting food hasn't been easy.
We ain't got no vehicle to get around, and it's hard.
It ain't over yet.
Laplace was one of the hardest hit areas by Hurricane Ida. The city remains powerless, partially flooded, and many homes destroyed. But the community remains positive.
We've been surviving. Our house is a little damaged, not too bad, no electricity, and finally the water came back. So that's one good blessing.
Very, very high. On Monday, Terry Herbert and her children received another blessing. Free hot pizza.
They were excited. They made me stay in line. It didn't matter how long, and they were glad to get some AC.
Metairies Fat Boy Pizza made the trek to St. John Parish to give back to a community that's already been through so much, but continues to deal with a big problem many face in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida: lack of food.
Fat Boys Pizza is about giving back to the community. You know, these people are in really bad shape out here, and it's the least we can do.
And owner Gabe Corsiani didn't let the rain, no matter how persistent it was, stop him from feeding the community.
Everybody's in their cars, and, you know, they're big slices, and hopefully feed a couple people.
Without a doubt, the slices were huge. And with the line of cars down West Airline Highway, it was easy to see that a food truck dishing out free pizza was not only needed, but deeply appreciated.
It's a sad situation, but, you know, the community's coming together. We're all united at this point.
A united front against a traumatic event, helping this community remember that no one is forgotten.
A while I thought we wasn't gonna get no help, and now they're helping us, and I'm appreciating that.
Candace Charles, Eyewitness News.
Fat Boys Pizza says they plan to stop by other hard-hit areas like Houma. They're just waiting on ingredients, which have to get, you know, it's been tough trying to get through Ida's aftermath and just to get those ingredients in.
Yeah, and you can find out where they're going to be on their Facebook page or even at one of their open locations. And that's such a great effort. It must feel good just to sit in the air-conditioned car and wait for it.
Oh, I'm sure a piece of pizza has never tasted so good to those folks. So every little bit of hospitality and support helps.
Right. Now we want to break in the forecast.
Well, we are going to get some breaks. We're going to start drying out, and we're going to start to turn a little less humid as we head toward the end of the week. Right now, had some big storms around. Most of that heavy rain is gone. I should say all of the heavy rain is gone. Still some scattered showers along the Mississippi coast. Few showers bubbling up still in northern Washington Parish, but for the most part, the rain has been ending. May still see a few more showers here and there bubble up, but those intense storms that we saw and did warrant a flash flood warning on the West Bank earlier are done. We still are technically under a flash flood watch, but I'm not seeing any of those intense rains that would develop over the next several hours. And tomorrow, a much quieter day. Not dry, but in terms of our rainfall, a bit less coverage. Around 50% coverage. Today was around 70%. So fewer showers, but still plenty of moisture, and we could see a few isolated heavy downpours. A bit less as we get toward Wednesday, and then even fewer. How about 0 on Thursday? And we will get a break in the weather. 83 degrees right now, a dew point of 75. Still has a heat index, though, of 90 degrees. But we're going to see a reduction in our temperature slightly, but also the humidity. Today's high, 88 degrees. We did stay below the average, but that was all because of the clouds and rainfall. I'd rather stay below average, but also stay dry. We're in the 80s outside at the moment. 75 degrees as the rain is just starting to wrap up over Bay St. Louis. And we are going to see more scattered storms, but as I mentioned, a little bit less coverage. Then a cold front moves through, and yes, a cold front. The temperatures will be dropping a bit, but more importantly, at this time of the year, the humidity is going to fall, and we are going to get a little taste of fall weather toward the end of the week. We're also watching Invest 91, which is in the Bay of Campeche, Gulf of Mexico. but it does not look like we're really going to see any impacts from that storm. Here's what's happening right now. There is a little upper disturbance that is sitting over the area in kind of an old frontal boundary. It's actually that disturbance that got our rain coverage so high today, but also it's that little feature that will keep Invest 91 away from us, because as that little upper low starts moving to the east, it's going to pick up that Invest and start moving it toward the northeast and away from us. So while that is happening, we're going to start to see some drier weather moving in thanks to an upper trough and a building ridge out west. This is going to send in some less humid air behind a cold front. Again, temperatures will likely come down a few degrees, but more importantly, those dew points in the 70s will start falling into the 60s and likely into the 50s. This will be a good feel air mass for early September, and we will desperately need it at that point. So more scattered showers and thunderstorms. Again, that weak system sitting over us and plenty of Gulf moisture around. So our scattered shower thunderstorm chances start to wane a bit by Wednesday. And then by Thursday, once the front moves on through, rain coverage is gone for the rest of the week and starting into the weekend. And even as rain chances slowly start to come back a bit by Sunday and Monday, it doesn't look like we're going to see all that much rainfall at all. So the area that we've been watching, Invest 91, believe it or not, we've been mentioning this since last Wednesday, and it was over the weekend that some of the models were picking up on something trying to form maybe near Louisiana, maybe impacting us. Right now, that risk looks very, very low, as it looks as though anything that we're trying to form would already be to our south and east and moving away. And the models that even indicate something would try and organize, the few and far between models that do that, continue to move it toward the Big Bend area of Florida and out toward the Atlantic. Again, there are many models. The reason why they don't continue is because they think Invest 91 is just going to dissipate over the Gulf, which is very possible, as wind shear and dry air are really keeping this storm unorganized. And really what it is down in the southern Gulf of Mexico is a big rainmaker. And that may be all it is as it moves toward the Big Bend of Florida. Again, even in terms of the rainfall associated impacting us, looks pretty slim, because by the time that moisture does start to surge northward, we're going to begin getting that surge from the north, which should keep all of that off of our coast and to the east. So some scattered showers, thunderstorms over the next couple of days, and then the drier air moves in. No rain and a bit less humid, which will continue on into the weekend. And even as I mentioned, some of those rain chances start to come back by Sunday and Monday. Rain chances are only at around 20%.
For people without power, 3 of the New Orleans public library branches started welcoming people today to cool off and recharge.
They will provide access to computers, Wi-Fi, phone charging stations, and of course, air conditioning. The Central City Library, Algiers Regional, and Keller Library and Community Center are all going to be open from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m.
And we got an update this afternoon about the progress being made in St. John the Baptist Parish.
There is still so much work to be done, but as Jade Cunningham reports, there are some small victories worth celebrating.
Our recovery, though, is going as well as can be expected, actually a little better.
A parish hit hard by Hurricane Ida is starting to make headway.
We've had water restored to a good bit of our parish. We have had electricity restored to one of our neighborhoods, and we're getting reports that we'll see some more power come up tonight, so that's reassuring.
Pods have been set up to give people water, ice, and MREs. A couple gas stations and grocery stores are slowly opening, and communication is improving. Still, Parish President Jacqueline Hotard says every area in St. John was damaged in some way by the storm.
You know, I've been on both sides of our river and in our community of Pleasure Bend, and it's devastation everywhere. It really is, whether it's flood, whether it's a roof has come off and has rained into a home, half of a business that's collapsed, and the devastation is so widespread.
Hotard says she understands people need help, and she wants her residents to know nobody will be forgotten.
It won't ever be enough until every resident has electricity, every resident has water, every resident's home has been fully restored. This will be a marathon and not a sprint, but we will continue to provide resources and work every single day to make sure that our community recovers and is back better than ever.
The last 8 days have been filled with heartache, devastation, and worry. But Hotard says the community has stepped up in ways that's given people their hope that things will one day get better. Jay Cunningham, Eyewitness News.
And let's hope so. People are starting to come back down to Lafourche Parish, but officials are warning that anybody who's going back there needs to bring everything they need to survive.
Power is out, gas very hard to come by. Also, a boil water advisory in effect for the entire parish except Thibodaux. We talked to the Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, and they told us how bad the damage is parish-wide.
We have entire streets where homes are just completely leveled. There's areas where there's no evidence that homes ever existed in that area. It's just completely devastating. Some buildings were completely gutted in the central portion of our parish. Really, I think it's safe to say that 100% of homes in Lafourche Parish sustained some level of damage. Some was very minor, going all the way to, again, just complete devastation of the residents.
In the wake of the storm, we've been blessed with so many examples of people helping people. And in Lafourche Parish, people started lining up for free gas early this morning.
It's something that's desperately needed now. Molly Oak has that story.
In Golden Meadow, gas is still hard to come by.
People need it.
Because when Hurricane Ida
Terrible.
hit Lafourche Parish, it hit hard.
Very hard. I ain't never been through one like this before.
Over a week later, and power is still out. The humming of generators fills the air. On Monday,
Okay, I need you to print and sign, please.
Bayou Community Foundation organized a gas giveaway. 20 gallons given to each car.
Everyone needs it.
The truck filled with 8,500 gallons of free gas. The people lined up for hours.
I've been here since 5:30. I know that a lot of them's been here earlier than me. But we need to get gas for the generator.
Each with their own needs.
I've been getting gas, and I've been transporting it to people that need it that can't get out and get it. You know, I got a bunch of elderly people that have oxygen machines and they need gas. That's where this gas is going to.
This community saw some of the worst of the storm.
Oh man, it's heartbreaking.
But things like this
Just get close to the canopy, thank you.
help them see the best of the community.
That's a community pulling together. That is great. Cajun country. That's what we're all about.
And the Bayou Community Foundation will give away gas tomorrow and Wednesday.
It is so badly needed, so wonderful to see. That free gas is going to be at Grand Caillou Middle School in Houma tomorrow and at Montague Middle School on Wednesday. Both are starting at 9 a.m. And we're going to be right back right after this.
Well, since Hurricane Ida hit, 12 senior citizens in nursing homes and senior living facilities have died.
5 of those victims were found over the weekend when the health department started doing wellness checks, and our Asha Staples has been following that story for us.
St. John Birchman's Manor is one of 10 facilities the city of New Orleans ordered to close this past weekend. And as of yesterday, there's still about 90 residents that are living in their apartments. Now, health officials were making wellness checks, but found some senior apartments without air conditioning or adequate medical attention for residents. And this all unfolding days after more than 800 nursing home residents who evacuated to a warehouse in Independence had to relocate. The warehouse was described as overcrowded, hot, and unsanitary. 7 residents died in connection to that incident. As for those in this facility, residents tell me it's their home and they don't want to leave in fear of further mistreatment and pleading for help.
I'm an oxygen patient, for one. It makes me feel like it's no one but us. They just start sending water and Gatorade, but we had none of that since the summer.
And this is a list of those nursing homes and senior living facilities that we do know were ordered to close down. The Louisiana Department of Children and Family Services is launching Connect, a way for families to relocate loved ones who evacuated from Hurricane Ida to a state shelter. Alternatively, families can fill out a form online to reach out to loved ones who may be in state shelters. Of course, we do have all that information for you on our website, wwltv.com. And of course, we'll continue to follow these stories for the next few days and bring you the latest as we do get it. Reporting in New Orleans, Asha Staples, Eyewitness News.
And as people begin to repair the damage left by Ida, there are questions about how to get help from your insurance company.
It's a complicated process, and Duke Carter breaks down what officials say you should do right now.
Well, State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon wants to make sure that people are not bogged down with the process. You can see behind me just how massive that tree is that hit the home. They want to make sure that it's easier for people to recover, especially the folks behind me, as soon as possible. And so State Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon is asking insurers to be fair with the claims process. He and President Biden have noticed insurance companies are not paying claims because there was no mandatory evacuation. Donelon said in a news conference he is urging insurers to pay claims with a voluntary or no evacuation order. He said the issue of mandatory evacuation is not about insurance. Instead, it should be about people's safety. Donelon said that some companies have already started to waive the mandatory evacuation provision.
People had to get out of harm's way in a very short period of time. And this circumstance certainly dictated that kind of action by our local leaders. I concur, and on Friday I issued a bulletin urging the insurers to do as the President suggested and as I'm requesting, and not impose that requirement of a mandatory evacuation order. So far, I've heard about 3 companies.
Now, the insurance commissioner is asking people to file their claim as soon as possible, because the sooner you file, the better you're going to get the adjuster on scene, and you'll get a reputable contractor and not fall victim to a scam. Now, if there are any questions about this, you're asked to call the state office at 1-800-259-5300. For now, the reporting, Duke Carter, Eyewitness News.
Stay tuned for this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 6.
We'll have much more on the recovery efforts after Ida next.
Had some scattered downpours across parts of the area. We're still technically under a flash flood watch, though. Any of those heavy downpours that would lead to flash flooding are gone, although we've had a few little showers pop up here and there. Had some along the Mississippi coast, pretty much, or I should say southern Mississippi, and a few popping up in parts of Washington Parish north of Franklinton at the moment. May still have a few more developing over the next couple of hours, but those intense storms we saw earlier in the day are long gone, and our models have really been downplaying our rain coverage and intensity for the day tomorrow. We're still going to have this upper feature sitting over us and plenty of Gulf moisture, so scattered showers certainly. I'm going to keep our rain coverage around 50%. Today it was more like 70%. A lot of us saw the rain, and then those rain chances a little bit lower on Wednesday, and then they are gone for Thursday. Some good news there as a cold front is on the horizon. 83 degrees right now with a dew point of 75, so it still feels like 90 degrees, and high temperatures today stayed out of the 90s, at least at Kenner, but that was all because of the clouds and rainfall. It'd be nice to stay in the 80s without the clouds and rain. We might get that toward the end of the week. We're in the 70s and 80s outside right now. Really the only 70-degree reading, 75 at Bay St. Louis, where we just had those late evening thunderstorms and more scattered thunderstorms over the next few days with a cold front on the way for Thursday and a significant drop in humidity, which will make it feel more comfortable. We are watching Invest 91, but it really does not look like we're going to see any impacts at all. What's sitting over us right now is this little upper feature. That helped to really get our rain coverage on the higher side today. It may still keep our rain chances on the higher side tomorrow, but as this little feature kind of weakens but pushes off to the east, that is eventually going to pick up Invest 91 and kind of kick it away into our east. And it does look like at that same time, we'll start to get kind of a northerly surge from an upper trough, drier air moving in, and any rain associated with Invest 91 will likely be moving away from us. And speaking of that less humid air, we are looking at a pretty significant drop in dew points for early September. Dew points normally low, sometimes mid-70s. As we get toward early Thursday, those dew points start falling into the 60s, and then by Friday morning, we'll likely see some widespread 50-degree dew points. Now that is a very pleasant feel, and that will also allow our morning temperatures to get on the cooler side, we'll call it, especially north of the lake, where we'll likely see some low 60s toward the end of the week and start of the weekend. Next couple of days, though, still the scattered showers, normal early September humidity, and again, with the plenty of moisture around, daytime heating and that weak upper disturbance will likely keep our rain chances around. Notice any moisture associated with 91 is going to stay well away from us, and then here comes that drier air, and that should make it feel much, much nicer. Somebody pointed out, well, by that point, a lot of folks will start getting their power back. And hopefully that is the case, and lucky if you do. But for many, that is not going to be the case. And even so, a lot of us are going to be outdoors still cleaning up and will definitely benefit from that better feel to the air. 30% chance of development of 91L. That is still a very low chance. That's in the next 3, 4, and 5 days. And really the area of possible development is starting to move away from the Louisiana coast and more favoring kind of the Florida panhandle or even out into the Atlantic. This is not a well-organized system by any means. You kind of look at the satellite, there looks to be more thunderstorm development here north of the Yucatan, not where the center of the invest is, according to the National Hurricane Center. Right now you've got strong wind shear and dry air really preventing anything from happening. And it may be the case that nothing ever does happen, as the GFS just kind of keeps an unorganized rainmaker that may not really affect our weather going into Wednesday. And then, as I said, by Thursday, we'll start to get in on that drier air, making it feel more comfortable. So some scattered storms tomorrow, more spotty in nature, I think, by Wednesday, then the better feel air and very comfortable for late September by Thursday, Friday, into the start of the weekend, and still calling it less humid by Sunday. Over the weekend, we'll start to get some of that Gulf moisture moving back in, and rain chances, though, going into Sunday and Monday, only at around 20%.
We heard more today from New Orleans leaders after several deaths tied to senior living facilities in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida.
The mayor assured those responsible will be held accountable, and the health department is working to make sure that something like this never happens again.
As the mayor and the council members can attest, loss of life in a disaster is a terrible tragedy, and we mourn everyone from the last few days. Our team is committed to working with the administration and others to develop better policy that prioritizes the health and safety of our most vulnerable residents through their time of need and provides better safeguards for their well-being. Collectively, all of us, we can and must do much better to help them. And it is critical to the overall health and quality of life of our city that we treat our elders and our most vulnerable with the highest levels of dignity.
In Tangipahoa Parish, power is slowly being restored, but there is still so long of a way to go, and the weather over the next couple of days could slow things down.
We heard from an Entergy representative today about the magnitude of the damage both in the parish and across the state line.
The amount of damage to Entergy's structures has been catastrophic. Over 30,000 poles were destroyed by Hurricane Ida. This is more than the number of poles that were destroyed by Katrina, Ike, Delta, and Zeta combined. It's going to take a while to get everybody back on, but our crews are working around the clock to get everybody on as quickly and safely as possible. We appreciate everybody's patience with the process. Preliminary estimated restoration times have been communicated for all affected customers. Here in Tangi Parish, we're anticipating September 17th as the restoration time for the parish.
We also learned that all of the parish's 32 schools have some level of damage. Just 7 buildings have power right now.
The hope is to have a timeline of when schools could reopen by Friday, and when they do, we'll be told it will be in phases. Oh, at this moment, we are awaiting a news conference from Jefferson Parish.
It is set to start at 7 o'clock, and we're going to be right back with more after this.
It looks like the Saints will be staying in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at least for a couple of weeks now. Sean Payton said about an hour ago that after the season opener, which of course is Sunday, it's a home game in Jacksonville against the Green Bay Packers. After that game, he said the team will go back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It looks like they'll be there for at least one more week heading into week 2. He said the Saints facility in Metairie came out pretty good in Hurricane Ida, and he would not give a timetable, though, for for when the team could be back in Metairie. Now remember, for that game, no David Onyemata in the opener for the Saints. He is serving a 6-game NFL suspension. A guy that I expect to see a lot of in Sunday's opener is number 97, Malcolm Roach. Roach had a terrific training camp this summer. He made the Saints roster last year as an undrafted rookie. He played some. He'll play a lot now. Where he played his college ball at Texas, but he's a Baton Rouge native, and he took time off during the Saints' off time this weekend, and he drove through his home state.
It's almost something like you've seen before. We done seen that so many times, and I don't know. You almost just had to say, like, man, when we go get something, like seeing all the trees, seeing all the devastation, things like that. You know, it's like the same picture, the same dream you'd have had a lot of times. So, but one thing about my state, we go shake back from it. We always do, and ain't never stopped us before. Ain't gonna stop us now.
That's a great sentiment from Malcolm Roach. He should play a lot Sunday. The Saints are expected to sign longtime Falcon cornerback Marcus Trufant to a free agent deal. Desmond Trufant to a free agent deal. Trufant, a Pro Bowler with the Falcons, longtime Falcon. Looks like he'll add depth to the Saints secondary. They need some of that. Sunday, they play the Packers. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Doug. And as we've seen, thousands of our friends, neighbors, and family are in need of food, water, and shelter after Hurricane Ida.
Yeah, WWL-TV is partnering with the United Way of Southeast Louisiana to make sure people in Jefferson, Orleans, Plaquemines, St. Bernard, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, and Washington parishes get the help they need. And a few of our friends from the Black and Gold have joined the cause by donating and spreading the word. Take a listen.
Why give? Because we're the New Orleans Saints. And this community, this New Orleans family, is a part of us.
We give because we have to stick together in our times of need.
Why we must give is to be able to provide opportunities and resources to the people that are in need.
We're partnering with the United Way of Southeast Louisiana and WWL-TV to raise funds for Hurricane Ida relief, to keep dollars local, right where the impact is needed most. Trust us, we're giving too, so we can get help to our most vulnerable families.
When I think about why give, I believe to whom much is given, much is required. And so we've all been given much. No matter how much we have more than somebody. And so the best way to help someone is to give from what you have.
And there are 3 main ways you can help. If you're able to donate, you can either scan the QR code on your screen, or you can go online.
And of course, you can also volunteer your time to help your neighbors directly. That's always appreciated. You can donate supplies too at North Shore and South Shore drop-off locations. Because of this drive, United Way is already working with local leaders and relief organizations to get the water, food, ice, tarps, and supplies out to the communities where it's so needed. We'll have more details on how to get involved at UnitedWay, SELA.com/Ida Relief.
Quick check of the forecast for the rest of the evening. Maybe a few more pop-up showers, but scattered rain is back in the forecast for tomorrow, though I don't think as much in terms of coverage than we saw today. Fewer showers by Wednesday. Then that cold front moves on through, sending in some drier, less humid air, which will make it feel far more comfortable, especially for early September. Dew points coming down, so look at those morning lows will be in the 60s, 70s, and the 70s really just for the metro area. I think even areas on the South Shore outside of the city will see morning lows dropping into the upper 60s, so a better, more pleasant feel as we get toward the end of the week and weekend, which will certainly help with the recovery rebuilding efforts, as a lot of folks, even though you may start to see more areas with receiving electricity, there's still a lot of cleanup that has to happen. And again, we won't be dealing with a heat index as those dew points will be dropping. A lot of sunshine as well, and also less rain, which will certainly help in kind of keeping the process moving along in terms of cleaning up. We'll start to see some of the Gulf moisture moving back in, not just surging back, but slowly returning towards Sunday and early next week. Rain chances even those days only hovering at around isolated 20%. So very nice forecast looking ahead kind of after tomorrow, and especially by Thursday, a very pleasant feel will return for a few days, but certainly it'll be welcomed as we head into the kind of recovery and rebuilding stretch here, which will last for quite a while, guys.
And Chris, as we await the beginning of the Jefferson Parish press conference, I know Invest 91, not something for us to worry about.
No.
Do you see anything else out there, or can we kind of exhale a little bit for the time being?
We can. There is nothing else that is threatening. Invest 91 is one that we had been talking about going back to last Wednesday, and really we weren't expecting anything rapid to happen with it. And it does not look like there is anything else on the horizon that the models are picking up on. So we might have a bit of a lull here coming up where there's not as much activity. We had Ida, we remember had 2 other named storms out in the central Atlantic, and we still have major Hurricane Larry, which is out in the central Atlantic. So we have just undergone kind of a very active phase, and it does look like things may be settling down for the time being. Again, we're not even out by any means the peak of hurricane season. The official peak is September 10th, but still the month of September, even early October, is still very active. So we're in the active part of the season, but at the moment, all we can do is take it day by day and week by week, and it looks like things are settling down for now.
And you know what? That's why the governor, I think, said use the blue roof tarp program, because you can put your own tarp up there, but you want to make sure that it is put up there properly. You want those engineers to put it on there because, as you mentioned, we're only, we still got several months left, I should say, of hurricane season.
And that tarp, hopefully we don't have anything else, but that tarp may have to last for a little while longer.
And it's free.
And it's free.
It's free. And we're getting word that the Jefferson Parish officials are getting ready to hold their press conference. You can see President Cynthia Lee Sheng there at the podium. She's getting ready to speak and give an update on the, post-Ida recovery operation. So let's go ahead and take a listen in at what she has to say.
Jennifer and Anthony from the Deaf Action Center, along with our Sheriff, Joseph Lapinto, our East Bank Fire Chief, David Tibbetts. Brian Adams is actually got to Grand Isle, so he won't be joining us today, our West Bank Fire Chief. Entergy, Patrick Hamby. We're happy to have someone from Cox here, Ms. Sharon Truxillo, our Director of Emergency Management, Mr. Joe Valiente, our Director of Public Works, Mr. Mark Drews, our Chief Administrative Assistant, Sarah Babcock. I think I got everybody? Okay. All right. And Lieutenant Colonel Barry Riley won't be able to join us, but they have been very, very busy, and he reported to us earlier all the missions that they are on. So I was able to visit Lafitte again today. The food distribution is going on at the Nunez Pavilion Seafood Market. Glad to see a lot of people going up there. Councilman Walker was actually there when I was there. Was able to also meet the contractor that was hired to fix the swing bridge. This is going to be, not coming up anytime soon, but I was glad to see that they were already there strategizing about how this bridge would get fixed permanently. I'm glad to see those people on site already. Also saw the ferry operation that's being operated by Lang, and very happy that some residents were actually able to get over to their homes in Barataria. So nearby that ferry crossing was also the building of an enclosed barge for crossing until the permanent bridge is able to get built. So obviously, of course, I've been there before. It's very, very difficult to see the devastation. There is a lot of mud that has caked up, lots of standing water still on private properties. I believe they still have standing water in homes in Barataria. I'll be honest with you, of all the things that we see, some of the most difficult times for me is when I actually meet somebody in person who has lost everything. That is very difficult to watch. It is so difficult when someone has lost all of their livelihood, all of their possessions, all of their mementos, all of their pictures. And I don't even feel like I'm able to comfort them by even saying, well, at least you're safe, you're okay, because the look on their face is just very heartbreaking. But it only makes my resolve stronger to fight this fight and to make sure that we put ourselves back together, and whatever we have to fight for later on, I'm committed to doing that. So it is good that I meet those people, and it is, even though it's hard, in the long term, I know it will only make us stronger and make our fight even more. And we will rebuild better the same way the people who worked Hurricane Katrina rebuilt better, and we were the beneficiary of that. So to that gentleman that I met today, today was his birthday, so I wish him a happy birthday. So with that, obviously rain today was very difficult. It obviously slows things up for everyone who's working outside. We are expecting more rain in the next couple days, so we want you to please be careful. Remember, already on a regular day, when it rains really hard, you don't have a lot of visibility on the road. Couple that with the traffic lights not working in some areas where we just have to use it as a four-way stop under a rain day, especially if it's kind of dark outside like it was today. Again, very dangerous conditions to be in, so please, please be careful. I don't know if the sheriff's going to talk about it, but I heard there was a hit and run last night. A pedestrian got hit, probably due to, again, lack of, electrical poles. So we continue to have more injuries and more fatalities post-storm than we did just the one person during the storm. So please be careful in our community. We are not put back together again. The hazards are very real, and they're very much out there. We do not want to lose any additional citizens in the aftermath of this storm. So I think, we've had the one person that passed away during the storm, but I think we've had 6 since this storm, but storm related. So please be careful. Remember, as I was driving out today, I saw a big awning on a gas station. It got windy and it was shaking in the wind. Remember, people have not had time to secure their buildings. Some property owners have not yet been home. So the structure is not always what it should be. We're just still, day 8, I think, of this. So please be careful, especially if the weather and the wind pick up. Please, let's pay attention to our surroundings in ways that we would not have done so before. Happy to announce that FEMA is opening a mobile registration intake center. That started today. It's going to be a drive-up site. This location will be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week until further notice. And the site is located at the Jefferson Parish Health Unit at 1855 Ames Boulevard in Marrero. FEMA is available for those whose primary residence sustained damage, for renters and owners. And FEMA will provide in-person registration assistance. So for those who have it, please bring a copy of your insurance policy. But remember, you can also go ahead to the FEMA website yourself at disasterassistance.gov or 1-800-621-3362. Kings Grant has now transitioned from an evacuation pickup area and transport out of the area to an actual shelter itself. So as I said yesterday, we are winding down these operations. The demand for this is getting lower and lower every day. If you need shelter, you'll probably just stay at Kings Grant. Please call 504-349-5360. Good news, I don't want to take it away from Mark, but I know he's been working on it so hard. We can lift the boil water advisory for the West Bank only. So that is very good news. As you know, electricity was restored to the treatment plant. We were able to do testing and samples. Louisiana Department of Health gave the approval. So just for the West Bank of Jefferson Parish and Upper Jefferson, the boil water advisory is lifted. We continue to get calls for generators issues. We've been preaching generator safety. I actually asked Home Depot, they reached out to me, one of their members that I know, and asked for a donation of carbon monoxide alarms, or what do you call it, monitors, detectors, and they delivered them. So our fire department is going to deliver them. It's not enough for a big public giveaway, but Chief Tibbetts will update on how we do that. But I want to thank the Home Depot. I asked for it and you responded, so very thank you to the Home Depot for that. Again, I think Joe was going to talk about that, but I will mention it too, and he can mention it again later. Those of you who are using oil in your generators probably need a place to dispose of that oil by now. Do not put it in our drainage system, please, please. It will clog up our drainage system. It is not healthy for us, and it'll clog up our drainage system right in front of your house. So please don't do that. You're going to have a drainage problem right at your house as well. Our trash drop-off sites can handle that oil at 400 David Drive on the East Bank or 6440 Lapalco on the West Bank. Again, I said last night the curfew is extended. The nightly curfew is extended, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. This is going to go until Wednesday, September 8th in the morning. It coincides with what we're expecting Entergy to have most of our residents turn back on. But do expect nighttime curfews continue in Lower Jefferson, in Lafitte, and Grand Isle area. Okay. Happy to say and thank the National Guard for clearing about 1.5 miles of sand off the road in Grand Isle. There were numerous front-end loaders and trucks and equipment operated also by DOTD to start clearing the island roads so we can move forward. Access is still restricted to the island, though. Chief Adams, Brian Adams, is not here today because he traveled down there in Grand Isle. He got there a couple hours ago with his recovery team to set up a base camp and lodge down there and be down there and have a presence on the island to oversee the restoration with Mayor Carmodell. So glad he is down there. They've been looking forward to setting up a camp down there. The floating barge ferry that was working in Lafitte has to be closed tomorrow so they can continue the construction of the enclosure bridge to Barataria side. So, again, thank you for Lang for your presence in Lafitte, but that ferry has to be closed tomorrow. Lieutenant Colonel Riley is not here, but as you know, the Louisiana National Guard set up 4 pod distribution sites. I'm going to repeat that again. Alario Center, Helen Cox, the Shrine on Airline, and Johnny Bright for food, water, ice distribution. I also want to thank so many people who have given to Jefferson Parish, whether it's food, water, cleaning supplies, clothes, baby items, hygiene products, and I have a list. And really, we want to thank you for responding to us, responding to our needs, and being there for our community. So Walmart, Second Harvest, the City of Lafayette, Mayor Josh Guillory, thank you. He called me the other day. Thank you very much for your donations. Louisiana Humane Society and Greater Good Delivery, the Town of Folsom, the American Red Cross, Carrabba's, the Convoy of Hope, Church of the King, World Century Kitchen, Life Center Cathedral, and New Horizon Church. We are indeed a very blessed community with so much giving where there is so much need. Mark's going to provide you an update on the progress, as he does every night, on all of the water, the sewer, the road clearing, the traffic signals, all of that. In terms of transit, we will launch a limited Lifeline bus service starting September 7th. Okay, so this is going to be limited. The fare is going to be free. We are allowed to do this by FTA during times of active emergency, which we are definitely in that time. It's going to run from 8:30 to 4, Monday through Sunday, on the following routes, because we know our citizens need to get to the grocery stores, may need to get to shelters, may need to just get transported around our community. So again, this is going to launch on September 7th. It's going to be fare free, and it's going to be just these routes: the E1 Veterans Line, E2 Airline, E3 Kenner Local, the W1 Avondale, the W3 Lapalco, and the W10 Huey P. Long bus routes. Okay? Garbage pickup and debris began today, and Mark will tell you they were out there. It is a slow process, as we've been warning. A lot of garbage to be picked up, much longer time to take it to the landfill and back. And of course, as we know, when everything's wet from the rain, even heavier, right? So please be patient. Again, I've said this many times before. Do not place your garbage by a fire hydrant. Separate your debris from your regular garbage. And please do not block the water flow to your catch basin in front of your house. Don't put it in the gutter. Don't put it in the street. Keep it behind the curb, so all the rain that is going to fall in the next couple days has a free passageway into the catch basins in your home. All right? Red Cross is also embedded in our community and prepared to provide assistance regarding feeding and much more. So tonight, the Red Cross, courtesy of Carrabba's Restaurant, delivered 1,000 hot meals for distribution at Lafreniere Park, along with Councilman Impastato. I think he's over there assisting in that effort. That began at 6 p.m. until supplies last. So, again, no schools this week for the public school, the Catholic schools, and no government, Jefferson Parish governments are open this week as well. Last night, if you missed it, and that's why we like having these saved on our Facebook page, Commissioner Jim Donnellan was gracious enough to come here, gave some incredible information on insurance. So if you missed that, go to our Jefferson Parish Facebook page and look up last night's viewing and fast forward to him, and you will get a lot of good information about the insurance. And I'm happy to have many more people here today, but I do want to say today is Labor Day. Obviously, this day was set aside by our country to recognize the contribution of laborers in the United States. In our community today, we didn't take the day off. We worked really hard, and today was certainly a very different Labor Day for us and our community. It has a different meaning. So I want to thank all the recovery workers out there who bit by bit, tree by tree, pole by pole, traffic light by traffic light, are putting this community back together. And we want to thank you for all your small acts of kindness and your kind words to all of our recovery workers. But this will certainly be a Labor Day we will remember, and we're proud to serve along with all of you in the government, in the private sector, in the nonprofit, in the churches, with volunteers. So thank you for that so much. Okay, with that, our Sheriff Joseph Fulpento.
Thank you, Madam President. As usual, happy Labor Day. But as usual, our first responders didn't get a day off. The men and women of the Sheriff's Office work every day, 365 days a year, and this was no different. The only difference here is, I'll give you kind of an update on crime as it is in Jefferson Parish. Our calls for service are still elevated as power comes back on. Obviously, we're getting a lot of burglar alarm calls. People are coming back home and having different calls for service. We're remaining in a 12-hour shift posture where I have double personnel out there on the street to be able to make sure that we're offering great services, getting a very fast response time to the people that need us, asking people to monitor their own personal situation. No power is coming back on. As I said earlier in the week, it said that it had power at my house when it really didn't. Today, the map shows that I don't have power at my house. Thankfully, this afternoon, I did get power at my house. So can't go off the map, but also going off the map, make sure things settle down. I've had this at least 3 times in the last 2 days where power has come back on, then trees start burning, the transformer then gets blown, and now the power is off. I don't want you at a safe place someplace else. Say my power came on this afternoon, jumping in the car, driving here, and then get shut off tonight at 8 o'clock, and you don't have a place to go. Giving the time for the system to really catch up, to make sure there are no problems, is really a smart move, and bringing whatever supplies you need, whether it's gasoline, pharmaceuticals, groceries. The groceries have the bare essentials, but their shelves are kind of bare right now, so expect to be able to be eating out of your home. With the boil water advisory on the East Bank, none of the restaurants are open. West Bank, hopefully some of them will open up in the next couple days. But those are issues that you're not going to be able to just run off and run to your neighborhood fast food restaurant and get back to operational, because it's just not happening right now. From a crime perspective, as I said from the day one, I'm proud of the citizens of Jefferson Parish. Overall, we did very, very good for the last however many days it is, day 9, day 10, whatever it is. We had a total of 152 burglaries so far. That is business burglaries, residential burglaries, and car burglaries. You consider when, a car burglar can get 30 at a time, 152 for a parish of our size is not that big. Good news is many of them were caught. They were caught in the act because the amount of people that we had out there, so they're solved already. On the opposite side, I'm taking most of my criminal investigation bureau. We've mapped out those burglaries, expect to knock on your door next week. We're going to come back, follow up with them. My crime lab has been working the entire time. We have dozens and upon dozens of fingerprints that we have to run in order to follow up on those burglaries, and we're going to do everything we have to. If you're coming back in town and someone did break into your apartment, your house, your business, please let us know, because we have made stops where we have recovered items that we know are stolen, but we don't have a victim, because we don't know where it was stolen from. So we have a suspect, we probably have your property, and we'd like to be able to return it back to you if you report it and give us that information. We may never be able to solve it, but there's a good possibility we may have it already. So report any type of crime that you have. Again, the Sheriff's Office is willing to serve and make that happen. And to any of the burglars out there that are looking for it, that are listening to me right now, turn yourself in. Look, the reality of it is we're going to go do our job, and we're going to try our best to solve the crime. And if you want to take your chance, so be it. But if we catch you, I'm going to have no mercy on you. If you come in and say, I'm sorry, it happened last week, I was desperate, and this is what I did, you have a lot better chance with the judge when it comes time to sentencing. I've got faith in the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office that we're going to do our best, and we're going to solve as many of these as we can. My job is to make sure that we can keep peace here in Jefferson Parish, and I know my men and women will make that happen. So if you're listening right now and you got caught up in the moment a week ago, make sure you turn yourself in, do the right thing. Things get hectic out there, but there's never a time that you can't come back and ask for some type of forgiveness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. Our next speaker is the East Bank Fire Chief, Chief Dave Tibbetts.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. Just some updates on where we are. I want to take a moment and I want to thank the members of the men and women of the East Bank Consolidated Fire Department and all the fire departments in Jefferson Parish for a great job and the continued effort that we're putting forth on this storm. There are a couple of things as we go through. I always bring up our stats. Today, our carbon monoxide numbers are dropping a little bit, which is a good thing. We want them to be at 0. Today, so far at this point from midnight, is 25, compared to some of our higher days 3 or 4 days ago in the hundreds. So we are making some headway. As the President stated, we have great news that we've gotten a donation of the carbon monoxide detectors. At this point, with the numbers that we have, we're going to distribute those detectors to the fire departments, and we're going to use those to distribute when we see a need. If we respond to a call or someone has a call with carbon monoxide, they do not have a detector, we will distribute those detectors. We are in the process of trying to gain more of those by large numbers, and when we do, we will then continue to distribute those in the places where they're needed, and hopefully that will make a difference. A big concern of mine right now is the rain. It affects a lot of different avenues of what we do. First and foremost, let's remember that a generator makes electricity. I understand the comfort. I understand that you have air conditioning, and it's wonderful technology. But when the rain starts to come, and if it wets that generator or if it wets a line, obviously electrocution becomes an issue. So I'm asking, please be patient. And, if it starts raining hard and that generator's out away from your house, which it needs to be, you need to shut it off. Please don't bring the generator under a carport, under an awning, anywhere near your home. As you've heard me say many times in the last week, those vapors will creep into your house and they are deadly. So please keep that in mind. Part of our mission also is changing in that we are seeing less carbon monoxide detectors going off. We are starting to see an increase in wires and shorts of electricity due to the re-energizing of the system. It's part of the process. What usually occurs is that it gets energized and there'll be a small fire. That fire normally throws a breaker or cuts the energy off and helps prevent the fire from getting worse. Now, it doesn't mean you should look at it as being de-energized. Any wire on the ground anywhere, consider it hot, either backfeed from the generator or from the system itself. So again, please, I reiterate, I'm very concerned right now when it starts raining that we keep those generators from cover, keep them outside, shut them off. Some of them may, again, I always say it, read the manufacturer's recommendation. They may operate as they should, even if they get wet. Just stay away from them. Again, reiterating on the hydrants and the debris, try to keep those hydrants clear when we deal with that. And I think that's everything I have to report right now. Thank you.
Chief, we don't have homework tonight?
I'm giving it
Okay, all right. Okay. From Entergy, Mr. Patrick Hamby.
All right. Thank you very much. Patrick Hamby on behalf of Entergy Louisiana. I'd like to start off, and just everyone's seen it. We have thousands of trucks and equipment and men everywhere. That's in addition to the down lines, the down poles, the down trees, the vegetation workers that are out there. They're working hand in hand with the parish officials as well to clear the roads to get everything back up and running. It's a monumental task. It is historical. It is a team effort, and it is much appreciated. And we'd love your help by being patient with us and understanding and know for sure with confidence we will be back to normal and everything will be good. It's just a long haul. It is a marathon, like I said, that we're trying to sprint. We're trying to get you there as quickly as possible. And with all of those trucks, all that equipment, all the damages, please stay safe, stay off the roads. It's even more important now than ever. We're in the midst of a full-blown restoration, a historical restoration. Hopefully that will be followed by historical speed, and that is our goal. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're trying to do. I will give you a status, or actually a resource number for the state. So to put it in perspective of what we're doing across the state, with the majority of that work being done in this hardest hit area in the South and Southeast. We have over 26,000 workers, and they're from 41 states. So if you think about it, we're not going to get anybody from Hawaii or Alaska. I mean, we're getting close to the whole country coming together with us to help us get back to normal. All of those workers have big hearts. They know what it feels like to have the lights out. I know what it feels like to have the lights out. I slept without AC for many days. It's not fun. We feel your pain, and we're here to make it better. It just takes time. If you imagine the damage you see, picking all that up just to clear the road is a task in itself. And then resetting the pole, doing it safely so nobody gets hurt, so these workers can go back to their family the same way they came to us to help us. So it is a monumental task. Please be patient. Please be understanding. Think about what we're doing. Think about the challenges, and appreciate the work that these guys are doing for you, please. It is all for you. We do have the estimated restoration timeline maps available. We previously had an East Bank map and a West Bank map separate. We've consolidated that. If you go to the site, it's in one map for the entire greater New Orleans region. It's just easier to use. It's more thorough, and it's just easier to use. The website, again, is www.entergy, ENTERGY.com /Hurricane Ida /ETR /. And that'll bring you to the interactive map. It's by feeder. I mentioned that before. So it has lines that represent our electrical system. Our electrical system does not see subdivision lines. It does not see, political boundary lines. It doesn't see parish lines. It is an electrical system that was built based off of demand. Wherever the demand was, we built our lines to get there. So when you get on that map, you can click in, use a smartphone or a tablet or a PC, but I prefer the smartphone or tablet, and you can easily zoom in to the street level and see most of the major streets, find out where your house is, and there's a color code little reference. I can't remember what they call it, a legend. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. But there's a color-coded legend where you can look and see whatever that color of those feeder lines are. It'll associate with the day that we're anticipating to get the majority of customers in that area restored, so either the 6th, 7th, or 8th. We're continuing work on critical facilities. We did take care of the water plant. That was a huge success yesterday. We're working hand in hand with everyone involved to get the nursing homes back on. That's a key priority. I've heard that many times. We know that. We've got a list of them ahead of time. We're definitely working our hardest to get the nursing homes back on. In addition to that, we still have some first responder parish police stations that are needing help, a potential fire station. The first responders are working to get them on as well as we speak. And I'm going to repeat this every day. What we're doing to prepare to get the power on, there's something you can do to prepare to receive the power. If you have damages to your home, to your service line, the weatherhead, if it's overhead, that sticks up through your roof, if it's pulled or bent off, or the meter pan itself, the box that the meter is plugged into, if there's any damages there, now is the time to hire an licensed electrician to make those repairs. So then when we do get the power on, there's no more delay, and you'll be able to safely receive it and avoid any of those fire hazards that Chief Tibbetts described just a minute ago. So the restoration status, the peak outages again were 204,370, the whole parish in the dark, catastrophic damages. As of 4 p.m. today, which was a while ago, we had restored power to 60,152 customers. That number is increasing tonight. What we do is we do all the work through the day, and then there's something we have to go through. It's a safety process. It's a requirement. It's called switching orders. We work with our distribution operations center. It's a huge control room, if you will, that has everything mapped out from our electrical grid It's our SCADA system, supervisory control and data acquisition. We make sure that nothing is energized that it shouldn't be. We make sure that no lines that we're about to energize might be overloaded, because if we do that, it could be a life-threatening situation, and it could also cause more damages to all the wonderful new equipment we just put on. So that does take time, and most of that occurs at night, so you'll see more customers come on tonight. And Sheriff Joe Lopinto had a very good example of the red-green, the off-on maps. There is extreme amount of abnormal configuration out on that system. We are building this system back better. However, we're not going to wait to have it in the preferred configuration. If there are alternate paths to get power to a neighborhood, to your grocery store, what have you, the hospitals, obviously the nursing homes, the first responders, we're going to work that path. That is the fastest, best way to get it, and then we can catch up and reconfigure back to normal down the line fairly seamlessly. So that does affect the map. There are some IT issues. There should be a category. We have poles, we have wires, we have transformers, and now we have a map as a casualty. That's largely accurate, but there are inaccuracies due to the damages from Hurricane Ida. So the most important thing is, do not, if you're away, do not make a decision to come back home solely off of the map alone. Call someone who's home. Please do that. Get physical verification that your home is indeed powered up and ready for you to come home. Last, I'd like to say we are entering day 8. I know it feels like maybe day 30 to some, especially if you've been here with no power for 8 days. We need to have patience. This is the time where we come together. We don't break apart. It brings out the best and the worst. It has the potential to do that. Let's focus on bringing out the best in each other, getting even stronger, not just individually, but together. It takes all of us, not just Entergy, not just the parish, but you as a customer, as a neighbor, as a friend, to work together to get the lights back on safely and quickly. We need everyone to make it happen, and we're not leaving till it's done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Next, we have a representative from Cox, Ms. Sharon Truxillo.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here tonight. We know how important our services are to customers and staying connected, especially during disasters. We are dedicating our resources to restoring services as quickly as possible. We have hundreds of personnel on the ground here in the greater New Orleans area, and we finished assessments, especially of those areas that were accessible to us in the area. Assessments involve visually inspecting 2,600 miles of our infrastructure, and it gives us a better idea of the damage that we'll need to repair. We currently have over 65 miles of network that's damaged in the greater New Orleans area, and about 40% of our customers are now back online in terms of the greater New Orleans area. More specifically to Jefferson Parish, we are more than 99% complete with our assessments in the parish, with just a small portion of the area around Lafitte that we were having trouble accessing. We've identified approximately 35 miles of known network damage in Jefferson Parish, and expect that we might see a little bit more especially when we are able to enter that Lafitte area. We're working in close partnership with Entergy to restore customers back to service as power comes online. Because of the more severe power and telecommunications network impact in Jefferson Parish, we currently have restored about 10% of Cox customers in the parish. Many more will be restored in the coming days, and you can rest assured that we're working extremely hard to get everyone back online. With our assessments effort complete last night, we hope to have a more firm, better estimated restoration time in the coming days. We are working in a collaborative manner with Entergy to plan out our restoration around theirs. Our restoration efforts involves closely following the power company's work, because we need power to our network communications centers, to our neighborhood equipment hubs, and finally to our customers' homes for our services to be restored. Vital components are attached to power poles in our area, and so we're really kind of looking at the number of power poles that are damaged and and are following Entergy's with our repairs behind their restoration of power poles. For instance, we have about 400 known repairs that we have identified in the area, but many of those, hundreds of those, are waiting for the power poles to be restored. We have been trying to provide updates to our community leaders daily via email, text, as well as updating customers through daily media releases. We have the Cox.com website, and we also deploy emails directly communicating with our customers. We announced over the weekend that we will be providing to all residential customers who experience an outage due to Hurricane Ida credits. Customers who were impacted for more than a week or so were notified over Labor Day weekend that those credits will automatically be applied to their accounts. Any late fees, charges assessed during this time will be reversed, and customers will not be charged for damaged or Cox equipment if they fail to return it because it's waterlogged or they can't locate it. As previously announced, if a customer needs to leave their home but doesn't want to move their services to another address, we have a storm assistance plan. This is available to temporarily put a pause or suspend a customer's service. It allows a customer to keep their existing email and their phone number for no charge for up to 6 months. So that way a customer can check their email, keep their phone number. When they're ready to return to their home, it's available to them. And we're not just waiting for Entergy to restore power or, waiting to repair services during our assessments. We prioritize repairs to our own network that we know can make the most impact to the greatest number of customers. We've also prioritized restoration of critical service facilities in the area, including the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, locations around the city of Gretna itself, and many of the Jefferson Parish communications centers. We would like to thank, on this Labor Day especially, our field services technicians and our construction crews who've been tirelessly working and dedicating themselves to restoring our area. And we'd also like to thank our customers for your patience with us. As many have mentioned, we are in this to win it, and we are here to help you if you have any issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Truxillo. That was very valuable information for the Jefferson Parish, your customer base, so I appreciate you being here. Our next speaker is Mr. Joe Valiente, our Director of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. So today we address some internal adjustments with our scheduling and our personnel. We have an A and a B team, and we've been working 24 hours a day now for 8 days. So what we decided to do, since the efforts of Entergy getting power restored and Mark Drew's phenomenal crew that has brought back our water pressure, cleared our streets, has many of our traffic signals working in our sewerage up to acceptable levels, we're going to allow our A or B team that is off to go home, spend the night in their own homes, spend a good night's sleep on their own bed, and just sit in their homes and just chill out. So we thought it'd be a good psychological boost for them because we know we still have a lot of work ahead of us. So we thought this would be a good thing to do. I don't have much more to say, but any issues that you have that are not emergency related, 349-5360, 349-5360, and thank you.
Yeah. So just to further reiterate, we have had both teams here the entire time. If you were A team or B team, if you were working, the other team was sleeping. We were manning this the whole time. If your shift is over, you might be able to go home, but that means the other team is here working. So instead of everybody being here all the time and sleeping here and just staying here, there will be no difference in what you see in terms of the response to any of these departments. Okay, so with that, Mr. Mark Drew is our Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I want to thank the 685 Public Works employees who began today their second week of 12-plus hour shifts in adverse conditions to restore our infrastructure. And again, they enable me to stand up here and give you some positive news about the progress we made for making this parish whole again. So again, we'll start with water. The great news is about 1:30, the boil water advisory was lifted on the West Bank. So the West Bank water is good for all uses, consumption, bathing, etc. The plant is on full energy power. It has normal pressure. It's pumping out. So the West Bank treatment plant is basically back to normal. With regard to the East Bank, okay, it is on full energy power now. It is also pumping at normal pressure. Today we completed collecting the samples across the East Bank. We then began the testing process. We anticipate that we will have the results of that test sometime late tomorrow afternoon. Okay, so again, good news on the waterfront. Now we're still battling numerous breaks throughout the parish. We have about 60 breaks right now that we have to get to, so our efforts are focused entirely now on getting to those breaks and restoring those breaks so people are not out of service. With regard to our sewer, we're in a little better shape than yesterday. We get better each time. As I've said, our 5 treatment plants have always been operating throughout the storm event. But we now have 145 lift stations on energy power, up from 99 yesterday. You combine that with the 148 lift stations we have on portable generators or portable pumps, and we now have 293 of our 530 lift stations with the capability of pumping sewage, which is about 55%, up from 41% yesterday. And we still have those 81 trucks that can go to those stations with no ability to pump and empty those lift stations and bring that sewage to our treatment plants. With regard to streets and parkways, today they cleared 40 locations of trees to make those roadways passable. 4 of those were so we could get to broken water lines so we can start those restorations of those water lines. We again removed 3 trees from houses. And to give you an idea of the amount of devastation with regard to our trees that we have to deal with, we now have confirmed 685 trees down on the East Bank. And we have 248 trees down on the West Bank, or 933 trees that we're dealing with. Streets and parkways also, they delivered some limestone today where they're building that temporary bridge to get to Barataria to assist with the approaches to that bridge. And as of today, we still have a few streets that we still have to clear with trees on the East Bank to make them passable, with the exception of we still have the energy entanglements on certain trees blocking roads. And as I said yesterday, we had reached and cleared all of our West Bank streets, again with that exception of trees that have Entergy entanglements or other utility issues. With regard to drainage, again, we're fully operational with all our pumps on the East Bank and West Bank. So again, we were concentrating down in Barataria because as I've said before, the last couple of nights and tonight, we are pumping in Lafitte at every pump station with the exception of the Jones Point pump station, which has some energy down poles that we cannot access that plant. So, but on Barataria, we did get some work done today. We were on Jean Lafitte, we were on Privateer Boulevard. We installed 5 6-inch portable pumps at Pool Boat Bridge. They're operating as we speak. We have 1 6-inch portable pump installed on Carmardell Street, and that one is operating as well. We also are draining the Swiss Bridge location. The Swing Bridge location. What we did was we dug a small ditch, and that can be drained by gravity flow. With regard to the Paille pump station, our marsh buggy excavator was able to clear the excess debris there on a 3/4 mile stretch leading up to the pump station. We were able to get fuel to that pump station, and late this afternoon we were attempting with our mechanics to try to get that one up and running. So hopefully we'll get it up and running tonight, but we're confident that if not tonight, we should have that one up and running tomorrow. And one thing I want to say about drainage is we had put some people out today, but we have limited resources to start cleaning catch basins on our major roads. But I ask you, if you have the ability, please check the catch basins on your street, and if you can, clear them, because after the rain today, I can guarantee that with all the debris we have, some of those catch basins are clogged. And with rain coming over the next couple of days, please take that time to check your catch basins, which will greatly assist our drainage system. With regard to the environmental department, again, today we did start the tipper cart pickup for garbage on both the East Bank and West Bank, but as the parish president said, it is extremely slow going because the garbage trucks fill up faster than they typically would on their route, and it is taking 2 to 3 times longer for them to take the garbage, drop it off at the dump, and then get back out on their route. We also did start the vegetative pickups on both banks, okay, but I want to again re-emphasize the need for you to help us to make it more efficient by separating that tree limbs, that vegetative waste, your tree limbs and tree branches from your construction debris, which would be your roof damage, like your shingles, any damage to your house, that type of material, or even your patios and your metal that you may be putting out on the street. And again, can't emphasize enough, please keep it right behind the back of curb. So again, we're not in the street, and when it rains, we have a clear path to the catch basins for that water to get to. Finally, our traffic division again is working hard. They restored 12 more signals, and as the power comes on, those signals will be in flash, and it will take us a little while, but we will try to get those up and running and fully functional. And that gives you a good update on where we are in public works. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Next, our Chief Administrative Assistant, Sarah Babcock.
Good evening. As it's already been mentioned, our Kings Grant Playground has been flipped from an evacuation point to a shelter. So currently we have 12 shelterees in that facility. This is the first step of us kind of moving from response to recovery on the human services side. So we are currently in communication with Red Cross and some other agencies to determine how to set up more longer-term shelters and also make sure that case management is in place for people whose homes are currently uninhabitable. Again, if you need to be sheltered until your power is restored, you can call 504-349-5360. So in total, we were able to evacuate 680 individuals by bus and 16 via ambulance to either Alexandria or Bastrop, Louisiana. If you are looking for one of those relatives, you can call DCFS at 225-342-2727, or you can find a form online to complete at www.dcfs.louisiana.gov/DCFS-connect. We are starting to discuss with the state how to bring all of those individuals back, and so that will take place over by the end of the week as power is fully restored to our parish. We continue to have oxygen distribution sites at Fire Station 20 at 4110 Hudson Street in Metairie and Fire Station 81 at 808 MacArthur Avenue in Harvey. We do have tanks, but we are still continuing to limit that to 1 tank per person per day. As we talked about last night, if you have a loved one at the Maison de Ville, West Jefferson, or Park Place nursing homes and you are looking for those individuals, they have been relocated to medical special needs shelters. If you are within Louisiana, you can call 211, or if you're outside of Louisiana, you can call 1-800-755-5175 to find out where your loved one may be. I also mentioned that DSNAP is in progress, so it has not been approved yet, but anyone can pre-register at www.dcfs.louisiana.gov/DSNAP, DSNAP. I want to take a moment to talk about COVID. Over the past 8, 9, 10 days since we've been dealing with this emergency, here in Jefferson Parish, we've had 24 COVID deaths. So it is still very much a part of our community. Today is the second day in a row that we have had to send first responders who are symptomatic for COVID testing. Tomorrow, Ochsner Center for Primary Care and Wellness at 1401 Jefferson Highway will offer drive-through testing and walk-up vaccines. LCMC expects to have testing and vaccinations available by the end of the week, and we are actively working with the National Guard and AccuReference Lab to establish our testing drive-through locations by the end of the week in some of the locations where they were before, and I hope to be able to announce all of those locations with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That will end our press conference. Again, wishing everyone a happy Labor Day. Thank you for joining with us. We work hard to give you this daily information. We talk a lot about the same topics, but as you can see, every day we make more improvements in putting our community back together again. So thank you for joining us.
All right, and that wraps up another update from Jefferson Parish. They do it every night at 7 p.m., and you hear from all the different officials giving you the very latest information from that parish.
Yeah, and it sounds like the upper part of Jefferson Parish is on its way toward recovery. The lower part's obviously still suffering. One thing that they did say today is to make sure that if you are judging when it's time to come home, to make sure you verify with your neighbors that your power is actually on, that there have been some glitches with that Entergy map. So if you think that your power is back on and you're ready to come back, make sure you verify that with your neighbors first.
And we want to wrap up with some good news, too. That boil water advisory for the West Bank lifted.
Yes. East Bank still under it, though, so don't forget.
All right. 7:50, we're going to see you again at 10 o'clock. Thanks for watching.